Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the boys from Steve Muffin's Dreamhouse. Thank you for joining us this evening. Ewan has just suggested that for season 3, we're sticking with Muffin, apparently. If any of you are against that, please feel free to use your points to redeem Team Muffin. There he is. Or Team Yana. We're closing in on the end of the voting, and we're going to go with, I'll add them up, and we'll work out who our news reporter is going to be next season. So there's one for Team Yana. We'll put her up. There we go. Ben's probably got quite a lot of points. He's just going to keep spamming that all evening, I'm guessing.
275,000 points.
Yeah, I think he wins.
I think it's a losing battle.
So anyway, good evening, everyone. Oh, I love Team Yana. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Boys from the Baltic Star. You join myself and my two friends and colleagues, who I'll introduce shortly, for this merry and wonderful sort of end-of-season romp through the season. We're going to go through and look at all the episodes from the second half of the season, talk a bit about it, usual stuff. We've got some questions that were asked of us in Discord, so we're going to answer some of them as well. I will sort out when I'm introducing them, so I'll go and put the beard on for you, okay? When they're talking, so that's all right. But yes, who are we? We're the Boys from the Baltic Star. What are we doing? Well, Friday nights generally, which is the night you've joined us, we stream Traveller most of the time, which is a science fiction role-playing game which we've played for a couple of years now. Welcome if it's your first time you have joined this strange little posse, and I hope you hang around for a while. This is a good session because it'll give you a chance to catch up and sort of get a bit of an idea of where we're at and who people are. And you're very welcome. Please feel free if it's your first time or your 81st time. I think that's just about possible. To lurk or chat, whichever you want. Chat is friendly. People are very friendly. We're very fortunate, as we always say, with who comes and hangs out with us. And they'll be very welcoming to you too. Please feel free to spend some points. You may see, I'm going to put Yana down now. There's a little red sun. Click on that for your Imperial credits and spend some. You could tell someone to get to the locker. That's always fun.
Get to the chopper!
Not that we have the facility to do that this evening.
No, exactly. And there's loads of things. You can make Ben drink if you want. You can make me show my muscles off. You can celebrate Ewan's beauty. All sorts of things. Have a little check. Some of the sort of the game-based ones are off today, of course, because we're not playing. But there's plenty of options, so get involved as much or as little as you want. I'm going to add the beard one in a minute. I'll tell you when it's on. But for me to be able to add the beard one, I need to introduce my colleagues so they can talk and I can do other things. First up, my name is Luke. Hello, I'm in the bottom right-hand corner. I don't like this layout because I'm littler than the other two people, and I feel that's just wrong. I feel I should take up the rest of the screen and they should be down that side. But we'll have arguments about this after the episode. And see what we do.
Yeah, welcome to my world. When we do the stuff down the right, I'm always where you are.
Always in the tiny little bit, exactly. Oh, it's heartbreaking. But yes, that's me. The man who's above us all, if you look, he was even looking down on us for a moment then. I can't fist bump him either. It just looks like I'm punching up. It is my brother from another mother. It is the housewife's favourite yet again, ongoing. We're an anti-simp, anti-simp, anti sort of love, anti-spice, I guess, stream. But there's only one person that we stand for, which is Ewan. And there he is. Look at his little face. He's so happy. He went to the pub earlier, so he's got his little happy face on. How are you doing, Ewan?
I'm good, thanks, Luke. You're far too kind. Thank you.
Right.
But I'm good.
It's easy to
and I
kind.
do have my pub happy face on.
What were you drinking?
In fact, I was going to... I just had a couple of pints of ale. I forget what it's called. Jack Frost, I think, was the name of the particular ale. I was just going to say one word so that you didn't have time to set up your whatever it was you were going to set up after all your rigmarole of trying to stop talking. But I've been down the pub, so I've said way more than one word. Here we are.
Also, I'm not very good at not talking either, so... okay.
No, it's true. It's true.
How
Or upwards
dare
fist
you.
bumps.
I'm not paying attention. Sorry. This is where I'm trying to click the beard. There we go. It's on. It's on.
Are you paying attention enough to say "how dare you" though, and realise that it's the occasional?
I can upward fist bump you now. Yeah, we have to go through Ben.
It's just gonna look like one of those, those hydraulic press videos where they squash like a pizza in a hydraulic press. It's gonna just be one of those, but us and Ben.
Exactly. That's very poor. We need to change the cameras around so we can get back to that. It's very upsetting. I need to turn the beard on, actually. Speaking of beards, for there is a man here tonight who needs to have a fake one, for he has left his, rather foolishly, in the barber shop.
Yeah, it disappeared. I mean, to be fair, I shaved the beard off myself. I just went to have the haircut as well.
It's still at home. You could still stick it on. Well, could he? I don't know. Because he could.
Well, I could, but it kind of went down the toilet.
Someone else do it for him.
If anyone could find a way to rapidly grow a beard back, it would, of course, be the smartest man in any room. The man who lives his entire life in the Twin Peaks dream sequence, who I've heard is enjoying a bit of relaxation and me time after a very busy run up to Christmas, delivering all the milk trays to all the girls that have been naughty.
All because the lady loves
definitely.
tray.
Yeah, that's how I spend my life. That is the way my life works.
It is Ben. Good evening, Ben. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Yes, not too bad. Busy week. Very much looking forward to a gentle, calm, relaxing weekend.
Lovely. I feel we can be more chill with you tonight because you can't kill our characters off tonight.
No, not tonight. I mean, next week, sure, but not tonight.
Oh man, well, let's enjoy this. I felt this is like a Christmas Day on World War One. We're all going to lay down our weapons and we're going to enjoy a kickabout together through the last 5-6 months, I believe, of Trevor, which is terrifying that we can sum up 6 months of our lives in about 2 hours tonight.
Yes, less if that's all we did. If all we did was bang through it.
Is that more of a comment on the content that we cram into the exuberantly long episodes that we do?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
To be fair though, we have played other games as well.
Yeah,
that's true. We've had a lot of fun times.
I'd say we're betraying what made us us. I guess that's two ways of looking at
it. Yes. Yeah, well, it's important to do an occasional variety of things, I think.
I think so.
And not entirely betraying, because there are still some big name games out there that we haven't played. Though we have had many adventures in space.
We have had many adventures in space.
Mm.
Well,
yeah, we've done a lot of space. We've done a variety of things, and it's good to do a variety of things.
Oh, the guns are out.
Oh, right. Okay, so this is where I'm sort of trying to work out how we actually do this, because I think we have to start with season 2, episode 21.
Hang on. God, don't jump on me like this. Hooray!
But the weird thing about that is, in order to make sense of it, I have to read the intro for season 2, episode 22.
No!
Last time.
Yeah, of course.
Because that will be the one that relates to what happened in season 2, episode 21, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. It does
okay.
Indeed.
Apologies. So, this is what we had as the intro to the next episode. So all the way through, if you see season 2, episode 21, remember that what I'm reading at the beginning is the one after. So our travellers made a few minor purchases before leaving Azureport. In fact, these purchases were mostly to replace things they'd used on the planet. most notably a replacement EMP charge, something that had proved very useful indeed at Umma's rooms. With that errand complete, a few conversations wrapped up and some goodbyes said, the party gathered their possessions and made their way up to the shuttle to take them to the seamstress. Behind them, they leave a gang of outlaws shattered, a priory saved from ruinous isolation, a mining collective helped, they started a business, opened up opportunities for several locals, helped a massive corporation, and perhaps set a rather dubious individual on a path to better things. They also killed a truly evil and dangerous criminal, an exploiter of the weak and helpless. They removed a violent henchman from society and, incidentally, delivered a hot meal to the local wildlife. They even found a way to dramatically reduce their costs for the return trip to Geeka by taking on a simple escort job on the vast liner. Their second visit to the subsector capital has ended with the kind of success that can only really be achieved by not carrying out a coup d'etat while visiting a place. Arriving on the seamstress, our heroes travelled back past the ski slopes and onto the vast concourse. And that is where we resumed the story. So, in essence, where we last, took up, that episode was goodbye to everything on the surface and then reaching the concourse on the seamstress. That was as far as you guys got.
Hello to simple escort job, which will only take 6 months. RL.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
It does sort of every now and again we do have this sort of episode where we spend a whole episode not really doing very much, even less than normal.
Yeah.
And it is often these episodes between settings or something where we literally, me and you are a little bit awkward. We're like, should we go shopping? Should we get brunch? Is there a need to get brunch? Well, they do it anyway. And we end up not doing very much. But you're always so kind to us.
Well, ultimately, you guys get to set the pace of things. Occasionally, there'll be some kind of clock, won't there? There's a thing you have to achieve by a certain point. But even then, it's game time. It's not real time. So I'm sure if you tried hard enough, I could say, right, the bomb goes off in a minute, and you could then spend 3 episodes talking about what you want to do in that minute before actually deciding.
For sure, it's not a direct correlation, of course, between all of our in-game time and our out-of-game time. It definitely fluctuates. But I think some of those episodes that we don't actually achieve as much as we do in other episodes are some of the realistic lighter moments that you have to contrast some of the more serious stuff. That downtime moment for the crew where they can relax and be themselves a little bit more.
Well,
I think it's quite nice.
I think there's an opportunity sometimes to kind of catch up with the characters a bit and learn a bit more about them that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we learnt that
Good contrast.
We learnt that Kat's travels very heavy. For example, she had a lot of bags that needed transporting down, which we wouldn't have learnt in a combat situation.
Yeah.
But it's a nice piece of character knowledge.
It's true. Yeah, it is the it is a nice way to sort of catch your breath as well, to do a bit of sightseeing, to explore a few things, to ask questions about how things work. You can meander around and learn a bit about the place you are, which didn't apply so much this time because both Dillabrew and the Seamstress were places you'd been before, of course.
That's true, but this was a very different part of Dillabrew than to before.
It was, yeah.
It had a very different vibe, and we were only on that. We sort of did that Dillabrew in about 3 sessions because that's when we were playing about 8-hour sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, quite a lot happened on that trip to Dillabrew, but it was condensed in terms of activity, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
But very much, as Luke says, a very different sort of activity. There was a soiree in a nice hotel room and a very lavish. I would say lavish hunting expedition out into the deserts of Dillabrew.
I
Certainly
would,
for the,
I would say
for where it
brutal.
was.
I'd say brutal and disgusting myself. That's Cara.
Yeah, and I wouldn't argue. That is a fair comment. But yeah, it was a very different side to the planet that we saw for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a different environment, a completely different city, a completely different culture, really. The only thing that was pretty much the same, I guess, was the outside. Once you left the domes, the desert was basically the same.
Exactly
Yeah.
the same vibe.
Yeah.
It was nice to be there. I felt because I know we're going back even further, but because of how Geeka was, Dillab, and how city-ish and built up, and how much there was, it was sort of quite nice that this side of Dillabry was very different. It was dirty, it was grimy, you had the central hotel, which was beautiful, but like the further you went out on the street rings, it really did just become desert at one point. And well, as we know, because we dumped one guy's body in the desert. So.
Exactly.
Well, that's the other thing, is that we got to see the truly seedy underbelly.
Right.
Yes.
Of the place.
Yeah, you
I
saw
don't
a much
think we
grubbier side
encountered.
of a much darker part of the world. Yeah,
it was nice. And like always, because that was sort of the end of that chunk, from when we go chunk to chunk, planet to ship to planet to ship. When we leave, that last episode is always I always feel a bit wistful. I always be like, oh, we're leaving this behind. I've got so used to this place. I feel comfortable, or at least I know, I feel what the place is like. So, what are we going to next? And it's sort of exciting, but almost sad looking back at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's knowing, I suppose, that realistically you're unlikely to come back. And I know that's weird, given that you're literally leaving one world that you did go back to jump onto a ship that you are in fact rejoining. But
I feel that's
not
not going to keep
to a planet that you've been to before.
Yeah.
I can't see that happening for the next 6 years of us streaming. I don't know how long that'd keep it.
It's a very weird set of circumstances that's led to that.
Yeah,
that's good.
But I think it's natural, as you move on in life, you mourn things, don't you, regardless of your relationship with them. I think there was some mourning for the planet, or for any of the planets that we move on from, or settings.
I mourned Austin.
Realistically,
I really visualised Austin. Even like the space station that we scarpered because of Fess, I'd sort of got a vibe for that because we've been there a few weeks. The only place I was happy to see go was that planet with the goo zombie things. That place could literally go to hell.
It
probably has, yeah. Like Event Horizon.
That was a creepy place. Creepy and dangerous and violent and horrible, really. So that's where we left off after episode 21, isn't it?
Yes.
So we should perhaps move on to episode 22.
Begin.
Welcome back aboard the Seamstress, where our travellers have begun their trip to Geeka brightly and with much enthusiasm. They moved into their quarters and called up Olivia Sharp, the Buckyball League security chief, to threaten to help her should she need any assistance on the trip. She was thrilled to have them aboard again, as you'd expect. She did have one request. On this trip, the passengers she's keeping an eye on the most are a travelling group of people on a pilgrimage back to Geeka, members of the so-called Geeka diaspora. It seems these people are not universally admired, and Sharp requested that they try to keep as low a profile as possible on the ship. Our heroes agreed that this was clearly the way to go, then watched the extravagant and noisy parade that delivered the leader of the pilgrimage to their shared quarters. An excellent start. On the other hand, the travellers put on a brunch for the pilgrims, getting to know a bit more about their temporary employers. During brunch, Zoe suggested to Cara that they take a walk some distance away, and once they were alone, or at least as alone as you can be on a busy concourse filled with sports fans, she urgently said, "We have a really big problem." And that is where we resumed the story.
Flick forward here.
Which was a classic Ben cliffhanger, if I may say so myself.
Yes. Had you any idea when we did that whether or not what the problem was?
No. It's the short answer and the very truthful one as well. No, I don't think so. Certainly not that it would lead on to all that it did. I suppose.
Yeah. Yes, it was. I can't remember exactly how long we'd gone that evening, but I think it felt like the right moment to call it, and it just was too good an opportunity to pass up.
But you're very good at dropping those in near the end, and sometimes you flag when you're playing, and if I'm flagging and you drop one of those, I think, I could go for another 2 hours. It'd be all right. Just to find out, a little bit more.
Quite right too. Yes, got to say, I love Luke's graphic for this one. The brunch setting is fantastic with special hats, very special hats.
Johnny looks slightly grumpy because he's been forced to go along with it somewhat.
Yeah.
Which was it Soraya who dug up the uniforms?
I think it was.
Cara went off.
Or was it Cara?
Was it Cara?
Cara and Zoe. Zoe got a load of the bits with Cara. They went shopping together from reading. I spent the whole. I love Johnny Two Socks. I spent the whole 20 episodes or whatever trying to work out whether the cult thought we were really mocking them, saying that about the cult of brunch, whether we've just been out of order, especially Ewan when he sat doing all these stories. I was like, oh no, does the Pope just think we're like being well out of order here? We're just mocking them.
Me? I will admit, towards the end, it may have crossed a line somewhere.
Talking about the first ever brunch.
Yeah.
That Pope was going to face worse indignities to come, as it turns out.
That's true. Pope's gonna Pope.
Yeah, that's true. But I loved the. I'm pretty sure at the time this was not a thing that Luke and I had spoken about.
Nope.
And it was sort of just thrust upon me. So probably the light-hearted and the somewhat ridiculousness of it all pays more horrid disjustice to my inability to improv very well, I would say, than it did to the actual diaspora, hopefully.
I do just like setting you up with something. I do it every now and again. I know because I'll build up something with Sarah and say something really annoying. How about you then, Stefan? And then just leave you to have to pick up the pieces in some ridiculous manner. Oh, and you're right.
Which I feel is part of the dynamic. On the Baltic Star.
Both of the girls can be a bit sneaky and sort of cheeky in that sort of regard, in different ways, but. Cara more with Agnar and Soraya more with Stefan, of course. This was the episode where Fid said, for anyone listening on VOD, Ewan did 1 minute of wisdom, because you have a 1 minute of wisdom that people can do, where someone has to talk about a given topic. And Ewan, when he does it, he normally just lists things.
To be fair, it's not just that episode, it's every single one. And I think I spend about 20 seconds reading the question and then rephrasing it somehow, or dropping something else into the mix and then listing off things as to how that relates to the actual question.
Yeah, it comes across like one of those sort of literature essays written about Lord of the Flies by someone who hasn't read it but has to hand in something at school. Well, there's this
which is funnily enough
and lots of flies.
Oh, 17 different ways to say the same sentence.
Yeah. Random word association thrown in.
Yes, it was. I think Socks is right. That one was just a list of random foodstuffs that you could eat at a brunch.
What I
mean,
loved...
it was a brunch-heavy episode.
No, a lot of them were, quite frankly.
Sorry, Luke. Take on.
I was just gonna say, one of the wonderful parts of this second part of season 2 was Stefan, and therefore, so whenever there was a need to talk to the Pope or the people, Stefan became the obvious choice because he was the Lord of the Feast, of course. So any sort of question we had to have or tried to sort of be on good terms, it meant Stefan kind of reprising that role. It was charming, I thought.
At this point, I think this is more of a Ben question, but we do have a question.
Okay.
From Kelly, which somewhat relates to this. What are the characters' reputations with the various factions that they have interacted or came into conflict with?
Oh, I
How
see
do you
what you mean.
think we came across to the diaspora now, Ben? Are we blacklisted?
I think you landed more hits on the diaspora than they did on you. Put it that way. I think they will probably have to go away and think very clearly about what they've done. You know, they'll have to consider their position. There are characters who have seriously tried to maneuver against the team fairly consistently, most notably a chap called Fess. And he, Fess, I can't give you everything, obviously, because some of it hasn't come out, but he has certainly made concerted efforts to interfere with their progress, and there's no sign that he's giving up on that mission. It isn't necessarily entirely clear to everyone why yet, but he is undeniably, you know, a character who has an agenda.
If I go through a few key names, so you don't have to spend too much time giving my own first, can you do like a one sentence on how you think they view the crew without giving stuff away? Would that make sense?
I can try.
In fact, there's a friendly, neutral, or hostile in the question in brackets that I cut out because
okay,
I felt it was implied, but I'd read the question.
Yeah.
Right, here we go. Officer Pramis from the Imperial Navy Intelligence Office, aka Navy Mum.
Friendly when you are used to her, and neutral when you're not.
Stella Ness / March Temple, who we beat up, chucked out of a plane, and then befriended at a later date.
Can't give that away.
No, cool.
That's fair.
We just did the nuns. We seem to leave them in good order.
Yeah. Yeah. They're fans, definitely.
Cool. Let's keep back. How about Olivia Sharp?
Mostly positive, with occasional exasperation.
Head of security and due to have a date with Agnar with the Pelago racing, I believe.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah, and assuming you guys can manage to do that without causing chaos, you'll probably like him very much.
How about the Commodore, Kat's old boyfriend, the guy that owns the fishing fleet on Geeka?
I suspect he was perfectly comfortable with you guys until you stole Kat. That would be my guess.
I'll go back to him then. I've got Seva. We left on good terms generally. That's enough of them. How about Colonica Debris?
Not really for me to answer,
No.
but we know someone who could answer that.
We'll leave it with them.
I imagine she's probably all right with you guys.
Oh, I missed Sil Salva, bless her. Who else? The main guy on that is, of course, Stanley Strife, the Varga, the leader of the Riftsmen's Guild on Ossian, who we tried to work with to put him into power.
Yeah. I mean, I would guess that Strife probably barely remembers you guys.
All that hard work we put in.
I know.
We'll just have to try harder next time to make an impression.
We didn't kill enough people for his liking. We'll finish there for now. We could have done that question all night.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough.
That's true. We have met a lot of people.
They're mostly, I think, the guys tend to leave on good terms, but not every time.
Yeah, there are some. I think it's actually it's not. there are times when we leave on terrible terms, and times when we leave on very good terms, and then there are times in between.
Yeah.
But I tend to forget the times in between. To be fair, they slip to the back of my mind.
Kigarisa, pretty much everyone was killed except Baron Archer, who we sort of made a deal with Amhex, which we'll never go back for, I'd imagine.
I'd be quite surprised if you went back there. You probably didn't leave a lot that would interest you.
Just decaying corpses of bodies in orbit, floating around slowly.
Oh, to be fair, the one body you threw out in space didn't actually stay there.
Oh, that's good. That'd be very creepy.
Yeah. You threw him out during the ascent through the atmosphere, so he sort of travelled with you briefly before the fact that he didn't have rocket engines. Changed his trajectory quite dramatically.
I mean, it's a good way to, without being too morbid about things, it's a good way to dispose of a body. I assume most of it burns up on re-entry.
Yeah, and
possibly.
And without being silly about it, any that doesn't is likely to go splash, you know.
Yes, yeah, precisely. Not for the nice people, obviously.
Yeah. Yes. It's I mean, it wasn't a kind thing that you did to him, but then to be fair, he wasn't a very nice man.
No. Nor was Ewan at the time.
Ewan was on a murder spree for horticulturalists, and it was impressive, to be honest. Not normally his way.
The best thing is the gardener has a name now, of course, thanks, I think, to Socks used some points. So he's no longer just the nameless gardener that Ewan killed. He's now Frank Bush McHugh, R.I.P.
Yes. If only we'd known that at the time.
If only.
No. Episode 23. Our travellers are back for their second journey aboard the Seamstress, the liner and buckyball pitch with added ski resort and après ski in the form of hot tubs and room service. That's an amazing picture. This time, much of their transport costs are being paid by a group of, is it unfair to call them cultists? Anyway, they claim to just want a quiet life and need some experienced, armed, ethical and discreet security to see them safely on their pilgrimage to Geeka. As a sensible stop in this process, our heroes made contact with Olivia Sharp, the head of security aboard, and someone they know fairly well, as they assisted her with an investigation into a mysterious death on the ship's previous journey. Her request that they keep a low profile had a bit of a stumble immediately, as the leader of the Geeka diaspora, who holds the title of Pope, made an extremely ostentatious entrance to the ship, subtlety not being one of the group's principal commandments, it appears. Still, the protectees are settled in their quarters, the travellers are in position as well, introducing their protectees to the concept of brunch. And it seemed to be going according to plan until Zoe quietly mentioned that at least one of the group was psionic. Psionics are a problem in the Imperium, essentially being illegal in most situations, so there might be everyday people who aren't keen on this diaspora, or there might be official interest in them, if it's suspected there might be a psionic element to the group. That's aside from any other individuals who might have specific problems with any single member or members of the group, as might be true of any Voyager across the galaxy. While the travellers were still trying to plan what moves to make, they were asked to collect a package from the docking bay and deliver it to the diaspora. They set off on this errand to discover that the package in question was a little girl called Leah. Leah, it seems, is familiar with the diaspora some time ago, but hasn't seen them recently. Our heroes are not entirely comfortable with the child being handed over to this bunch of oddities, but at least they're going to be nearby for a week. Agnar asked Zoe to use some of her skills to ascertain whether Leah is safe with the diaspora, and she reported there isn't anything suspicious in the group's behaviour, but that Leah is also psionic. Worse, psionic individuals can tell when others try to scan them. If Leah was paying attention, she might realise that someone was examining her mind. Zoe suggests that contacting March Temple to take Leah to Zodani space might be a way forward, pointing out that in Imperial space, the girl is a walking crime. The others weren't entirely on board, but Zoe insisted that if Leah wasn't made safe by the time they leave her, then Zoe will take action, even if that means leaving the Baltic Star. She doesn't think taking a 10-year-old on a deep space exploration is a sensible idea. Zoe opened up her communicator to send a message to March Temple, and that was where we resumed the story.
And this one had a lot, I feel.
Yes.
Certainly from a moral point of view. It had a lot of content for me to absorb, I think. Yeah. And indeed the end of the last one. I think we were immediately protective, weren't we, of the young girl, Luke?
Oh, what, a girl that's
But I
like
don't
the
know
same
why.
age? Yeah, I wonder that. How old is my eldest again? Funny that.
Well, there is that. But in game, realistically, the cult hadn't actually done anything wrong necessarily.
No.
They weren't necessarily good, but they certainly hadn't proved that they were, I suppose traditionally what you would picture in your mind when you use the word cult, there was none of that we'd seen.
Yeah.
But I think Luke and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I certainly got a very iffy feeling about the whole situation when she arrived.
Yeah, I don't like her being like a package and sort of the small girl being taken away from her family and brought to join these guys and sort of just dragged into it. Feels like she needed a chance to choose these things for herself, I think. And that was one thing. And the other thing, of course, was Zoe saying that she would leave if we did nothing about it. And we're like, oh, Zoe's quite good. She's like, she shoots better than most. She shoots better than most of mine. And she's quite strong. She's a good crewmate to have. I'd rather lose one of ours than Zoe.
Cruel, very cruel.
Indeed, Luke. But I don't. To be fair, I think we're quite attached to everybody that's currently on the Baltic Star, and I don't think we'd want to lose any of them for the sake of a simple escort job, as you described it, Ben.
Very simple escort job. Yeah, nothing can possibly go wrong.
Nothing ever does,
as we'll find out. But no, I think it was. There was definitely a line drawn there, and we had to make a decision, albeit an easy one, I think, but there were certainly a lot of options.
Yeah.
So Leah was a weird one because her sort of storyline, I guess, was one of the main two interlocking storylines through this second bit. It's the cult's journey and our role within that, and Leah Hivia, which of course ties into that, but is her own thing. Well, the cult story was the thing that went along the whole time. But it was like Leah sort of came up in little bits. There was this bit, then it was quiet for a few episodes. Then it was like, get in touch with March Temple, do the thing with the ship, which we'll go into later. It's just those 3 or 4 little peaks within the story. It's like all hands on deck.
Yeah, absolutely. And You see, I was at the time I wrote it, I was genuinely wondering if we were going to have a very different kind of journey. I didn't for a second think you were just going to shrug and say, yep, let's give the 10-year-old girl to the cult. Never occurred to me you'd do that. But it did occur to me that you guys might sort of put your heads together and decide that the only priority you had, and the first one, was to get her away from the cult.
Mm.
And you could have snatched her sort of immediately, and then the entire rest of the journey could have been you hiding from various cult members and being hunted while random explosions took out various parts of the cult.
Which I think.
Well,
Sorry, I was going to say, I think
Oh,
7
no,
out of
go
10.
on.
7 out of 10 groups would have probably done that, if at least.
Yeah,
Go straight in and running gunfights on the promenade.
exactly. It could have been a very different journey.
And there was a part of me that if we hadn't have already set up the March Temple getting rid of, or not getting rid of, but taking the girl away, there was a part of me that was like, thought at the time, we know there's going to be more attacks. There's just like a perfect distraction.
Yeah.
And perhaps there's part of my characters that didn't want to throw, albeit cult members, under the bus for the sake of getting rid of the girl when we had another option. But it was a choice. It was something that I definitely thought about.
To be fair, that hadn't occurred to me. But once you knew there was a third attack coming, you probably could have used that as an option. I suppose the danger is, what if that attack, without you paying attention to it, had ended up killing her?
Yeah. Ideally, we wouldn't want to be in the same direct location. But yeah.
Yes, but yes.
We do tend to skirt with the grey characters, though, like we did with what's it, the Sandcrate guy on De La Rue, of course, because he is a despicable character, really.
Oh yeah.
But because he had something to give, instead of just out and out killing him, we tried to deal with him and then make him a better person somehow.
And because he was motivated by self-aggrandizement and money, if you could find a way to bend that towards the right choices, then he's not irredeemable. The Amma, when you met her, she was, I think, utterly irredeemable.
Yeah.
That kind of person can't be fixed. That's just a bad person.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely, both of those certainly felt that way. I think you did a very good job of portraying that.
The cult weren't being cruel to us. They were quite friendly to us. They weren't, like I say, they weren't starting violence on the ship. It was other people towards them, like because of them prancing around and stuff. But they seemed very focused on doing what they wanted to do. So I think at this point, Ewan and I were trying to. It was the start of us trying to juggle, do the stuff with the cult, but at some point knowing we would have to turn on them in some way for Hivia. And if we were going to go full out turn on them, or try and do it in a way where they don't quite realise, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that's what made me not discuss the let's just let the third attack go ahead and use that as a distraction. Like, I didn't bring that up with Luke because they actually hadn't done anything. There was a lot of hatred towards them, and perhaps they were a little bit odd, but they hadn't actually done anything that either of my characters had seen that was outright nasty or wrong, or even justified the dislike that they were getting, just walking down the promenade of the ship, I suppose, realistically, from our perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, actually.
What I did like was this was really where you started tying in the chips, which Stefan found through doing a Stefan Sneaky masterclass, and handed them to Kara. And Kara had been researching it, and it was all about the diaspora. And this was the first episode where she really started poring over them with Zoe, and then they would go to Sharp and so on. And so it really brought in the information that way.
Yeah, well, it was actually very very useful, as it turned out, that you did your sneaky thing, because there were all sorts of other ways I had there were certain bits of important background information that I thought you needed to have, and suddenly I didn't need to worry about how to get them to you. I had a couple of NPCs that I'd planned would actually, walk up and tap you on the shoulder and like say, do you know who these people are you're associating with, kind of thing. Didn't have to worry about those. So those NPCs can re-emerge in a different form another time. But the
in a Von Cotswolds form,
quite possibly. but that that really did shortcut a couple of things, which is one of the nice things about an RPG, that it doesn't necessarily go the way I assume it's going to go.
So thanks, whoever redeemed that.
Yeah, that really did.
You probably
changed everything.
4 months off of our playing time.
Yeah, because Luke was actually saying, I think it was before we started streaming, that we'd had a discussion when they jumped onto the seamstress, and I said something like, I think this will be about 4 episodes. It's a fairly quick one. You got to and even as I said it, I knew that was ridiculous.
You said it anyway, Ben.
There were going to be 3 episodes just devoted to brunch, weren't there? Let's be honest.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I've also got quite heavily written notes on the bedrooms and who was in each room, and the shifts.
All went to shit. Pardon my French.
I quite like the shifts. It just made it. It was constantly. It made everyone feel exhausted, and it's what made the days go long, because we were running on a 24-hour game. Yeah. There was always something happening, but it made well, oh, who's awake? Who's available? Oh no, man, these are doing this, and it felt almost like resource limited.
These people haven't slept in this amount of time, but they've got to do something. They're going to be tired. It was a really good way of thinking about things, and dynamic to have in the game as well.
It kind of becomes an issue when you're traveling with your whole gaggle, because it would be too easy sometimes for you to just bundle everyone together and say, right, we're going to go and storm the castle, so to speak. So it's quite nice when it doesn't work out that way, if you know what I mean.
You know us, we only like to travel around with 1 or 2 NPCs at a time, really. It gets a bit bigger.
Generally speaking. Yeah.
Speaking of that, Ben, who's your favourite NPC?
Oh, good question.
Question from viewers.
My favourite one to play is Fess.
I knew it'd say
the one I like the most is probably Sammy.
Oh, Sammy.
I think I like Sammy the most, but the ones I quite like playing and quite like as well, it's probably Zoe and Kat. The ones I look forward to the most on a regular basis, because they're fun to play and I think they're fun. They're likable.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. In fact, I like when you play first, because it adds Luke and I get a bit on edge, if I'm honest. Well, I certainly do.
With
We've
whom,
spoken about it before. With Fess.
With Fess. Oh yeah, he puts the willies up me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Sammy is a very likable character.
Sammy has a lot of history with us, though, even before streaming days.
Yeah.
So she's got
one
past.
Of the more long running.
We were worried that she was getting Manchurian candidated by Fess on the space station. She was at big risk on a planet, but then ended up being like the gun-toting hero that saved Stefan. There's a lot about Sammy that we're protecting about.
And she's done a lot of. She has fared very well in combat situations.
Before we started streaming, there was a very brief time, which only lasted a session or so, when the gang had just met Fess the very first time, and the plot was about his interaction with Sammy.
Oh yeah, I enjoy that.
And that was absolutely joyous to play for me. That was a really, really nice part of the story.
I did get to make a philosophy roll with Cara though, so that was all worth it for a philosophy check.
Yeah.
They were good
Yeah.
interactions with Fess and Sammy. Poor Sammy.
Yes. So as I say, I mean, I think my favourite to play is Fess. The character I like the most, the NPC I like the most, is probably Sammy. And Zoe and Kat are a nice. They're great for me because I both like them and enjoy playing them. So
Yeah, they are very fun.
Good answers.
they are entertaining, I think. So we
But
move
yeah,
on to
sorry.
episode 24.
Oh, the hot tub stream.
Our most viewed episode ever.
Aboard the Seamstress, giant liner, buckyball pitch, ski resort, and hot tub paradise, the travellers have the task of protecting a group of cultists on the week-long voyage. They've discovered that at least one of the members of the Geeker diaspora, their temporary employers, has some psionic ability, something more than frowned upon in the Imperium. The diaspora has also taken delivery of an unaccompanied child, Leah Hivia, who also seems to have psionic ability. Seeing the girl is in real danger in Imperial space, Zoe made some suggestions, some of which might have led to her leaving the Baltic Star. But they contacted March Temple, someone they know is Zodani and might be able to help. March said she would try to make arrangements, or at least provide the travellers with a name they could contact. Meanwhile, as Chief of Security Olivia Sharp had asked the travellers to keep the diaspora largely in their quarters and only bring them out in ones and twos to keep a low profile, Kara hacked the hot tub booking system in order to book the diaspora a group of tubs all together so they could share time in public as a group. Agnar did discover a human passenger who was paying a little bit of attention to him, but it's not clear why.
Wow, look at him. It's obvious.
It is pretty obvious, actually, from that image, yeah. When March got back in touch, she asked if our heroes could delay the liner's jump to Geeka by an hour, and immediately the travellers began plotting. The plan, concocted by Kara, Stefan, and Sammy, involves a complex operation of 4 steps, any one of which could go horrifically and instantly wrong. Success will be realised only if each and every part works perfectly, and, at several points, the team could get into very serious trouble if they fail. It is, in other words, a classic Baltic Star plan. And that is where we resume the story.
Oh, the Monkey Tails have turned up. Sorry, Vodders. We could be confused now. Hey, Monkey Tails, how you
Monkey
doing?
Tails.
Pirate, vast to you. You've joined just as water is involved. It's perfect timing for you. How's the stream? How's the spookiness and the boats? Spookiness and boats, two of my favorite. Well, not my favorite things. Two of the most terrifying things. I hope your stream is amazing, and thank you for joining us. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and so on. We've missed you guys.
Yes, Happy New Year to Infinite Monkey Tales.
Because you had a little time off streaming as well, so it's very. Yeah, it's nice to have you back. What a joy. Yeah, the hot tub stream. This wasn't the one that Agnar fell over, was it? To delay. Was that another one?
No. This was the beginning of was it the attack? Or was this the...
No, this was a precursor. They were scoping it out. Yeah, they booked the hot tubs.
Yeah.
The cult were going to go to the hot tubs whatever we did. So we came up with a plan, which was to do it all at once, like ripping the Band-Aid off, as it were. Get them all there, but in hot tubs that were sort of the most protected, I guess, at night, when the hope was that it might be a little bit...
Oh, maybe this was the falling in the hot tub stream then.
Oh, I'd hope so.
Depends how many episodes were between now and actually getting to the hot tubs, which, knowing us, could be anywhere from 1 to 13.
I'm pretty sure it was the next episode that actually had the distraction. Because
of course, it's part of the heist.
It was part of the heist one, yeah.
Yes, because this one was mostly the ins and outs of the ship, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Getting the heist done.
This one was just topless admin, basically, this episode. for characters and us.
I think it was very important
true,
that we did it.
There's a lot of fluff in the filters.
It was let's say an homage to the fact that we're Twitch streamers, that we did a hot tub stream.
We've wanted to do one for ages. Finally, we did.
Yeah, I mean, it would feel bad to not if you've got a cult that you're escorting from one planet to their pilgrimage, and they all want to go to the hot tubs to visit.
Yeah.
And they're set on doing it. Why would you not have a hot tub stream?
I feel we would have let ourselves down if we hadn't had a little dig at the realities of Twitch.
Not just us, Ben, but the whole community, I feel.
Yeah. Yes, I think everybody joined in very much. That's true.
But yeah, it was a good episode. It was who was it who went into the depths of the ship? Is this when we're?
Not yet. That's the next one.
Was that next one?
That was the next episode.
This was the planning of it.
This one had all of the planning. Yeah, but then we actually stopped just before the heist.
Yeah.
So that we could do the heist as a standalone episode, basically.
Right. Also,
sorry, spoilers.
I think only the second episode title that I've done that doesn't start the one with, or the one.
Right. Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yes. Classic, really.
Yeah.
Right. So, are you guys okay if we take a break for 5 minutes?
Well, go on. We are 4 episodes in.
We are.
How many are we going through?
About another 12.
We're not even close to halfway. But to be fair, we did
right.
we did the waffle stuff at the start as well.
Yeah, that's true. It might be a double breaker.
Well, if it is, it is.
Okay, so
yeah, no, that's fine. Fine by me.
That's fine by you. I've got to find the halftime screen. Oh no. Okay, I think that's. Oh no, hang on. I've got to turn that bit off as well now. Right, I'll be back in 5 minutes, everyone. Don't go anywhere. Well, you can, but come back. 5 minutes. Right, hang on a sec. We'll turn them off. Right, they're off now. So now you can just hear me. I think. Yeah, just hear me. That's good, right? I'll ASMR you guys into break. Let me talk like this, and then because yes, that's exactly how it should be. Son, we're back. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all well. If you're still here, congratulations. We might pick up the pace. We might not. I have no idea.
No clue yet. We'll see how it goes. But thank you for joining us. So, the next episode.
Oh.
So, episode 25. Aboard the Seamstress, liner and sports arena, where the game of buckyball is played in a vast theatre of dreams, our heroes are in charge of security for a group of cultists known as the Geeker Diaspora. The Diaspora has taken delivery of a young girl who, it seems, might be something of a controversial person in the Imperium, down to her psionic talents. The travellers feel she would be safer in the hands of a Zodani agent, and they happen to know such a person, March Temple, so they contacted her for help. She, unfortunately, wasn't able to make the Seamstress before the ship made its jump to Geeka, unless the gang could find a way to delay that jump. Accordingly, the travellers went into heist mode. As Agnar went into floofwaffle mode to distract security officer Olivia Sharp, Kat Aralesti sneaked her way through service ducts to disable an alarm on an access hatch in the accommodation areas. Then a team went into the emergency tunnels and, using the results of an excellent search for ship's plans by Kara, were able to disable all 3 of the redundant conduits connecting a proximity sensor on the ship's hull. As the team made good their escape, an announcement across the ship declared that the jump to Geeka had been delayed somewhat, a perfect success to a complex and risky plan. And that is where we resumed the story. So this was indeed the heist episode.
The one where you ain't seen
indeed.
them. Right. The card has a special someone starring at the front of this picture card. It's the back of Ewan's character from our graphics. Get confused with Kara, because Kara rolled. It's one of Kara's like 16 rolls. You know, like when you do the persuasion plus intelligence or whatever. And someone booned me. Probably Kelly booned me.
Yeah, I think so if
what
I
are you doing
remember,
down
it
here?
probably was
what are you
powered
doing down here?
by Kelly power. Yes.
What are you doing down here? I'm not even down here. Oh, you're not even down here. It's that sort of role, which is nice because the whole plan had gone so well up until that point. I think with mainly down to Agnar, I'm going to say.
Though I will say, I think Ben's intro was right that the role that Kara did for the computer, for the schematics blueprint, was right in her wheelhouse, wasn't it? But it was a good role.
It was a very good role.
A really good role.
Was this the one?
Yeah, there were a couple. There was one just in the last couple of episodes, or last episode maybe, which was astonishing. And Luke was saying something modest like, I don't know if this will be good enough, and it turned out to be a 15.
But I was worried though, because I think that was at the time with trying to persuade the girl or something. It felt like quite an important role. So
yeah, for those who don't know the mechanics, Traveller has a sort of traditional thing where you have to traditionally hit a number 8 on 2 dice plus various bonuses in order to achieve something. But the mechanics allow the referee, which is me in this campaign, to say, actually, no, that's considerably more difficult. And generally speaking, they encourage you to go up in steps of 2. So it's sort of a 10 if it's much more difficult, and a 12 if it's really, really difficult, and so on. But that's how you set like the intrinsic difficulty of something, and then there can also be a situational difficulty. You know, you're doing it while hanging off the side of a mountain by your fingertips, in which case you can also get a bane, which will knock out your best die roll of 3. And sometimes a boon if the situation really does suit them. I tend to use boons mainly for things that have been extensively role played. Yeah. So if the characters have had a conversation with someone and it's been well done to sort of get them in the right frame of mind to make it work, then that is then applied to the role.
I think you had that with Hivia at the end. I think that was because Kara had that big conversation about her. And you're like, well, just
exactly
roll with Boone. She trusts you now. So
yes.
which I really appreciate, because I think the other way of doing it is you could adjust the level of the check that you're trying to make, so you could make it an easier check. But I think for us to see the benefit of the conversation and the role playing that we're doing, it's a really good idea just to use boons and banes.
Because generally speaking, I wouldn't tell you what number you were trying to hit until afterwards.
Yeah.
If at all. Whereas
exactly.
a boon or a bane, you do get that immediate feedback.
Yeah, which is nice, and I think encourages us to role play stuff.
And it supports conversation, doesn't it? It supports picking really clever ways to do things or imaginative ways to do things, and that is very important, I think.
And I think being able to fix a task harder than 8 is helpful, because, like Ewan said, certain things, especially in Kara's wheelhouse, because her stats are so low for combat, unless it's punching something, it means that there's a couple of real things that if it's a certain IT check, using her laptop, which she gets a +1 for, she's basically got she's got a +5 to her dice roll for certain things. So that's why it's good to sometimes do a hard check, because hitting an 8 is almost a guarantee when you've got a +5 already. So it's quite
absolutely
nice. It's nice that there's a harder check sometimes.
Yeah, and some things should be difficult. You should. It shouldn't be the case that all things are equally easy. In the same way as there are circumstances in which you're trying to do something which I can't realistically think anyone would have literally set out to stop you. So it immediately becomes a 6, say, at that point. And I think I must have told you once or twice, I'm going to have to make you make a check here because it could be plot relevant, but it's not going to be a difficult one.
No, that's fair.
I
like it when we have a little set piece session and I liked it, and we had timings and everything. We got times written down, things that happened. Agnar saved it because Sharp was heading back to her office at one point, and I think we between us and chat made Agnar roleplay the entire situation, if I remember correctly.
Yes, definitely did. Yeah, and it was remarkable. Ewan's waffling on to distract Sharp was amazing.
Well, if there's one thing I'm good at, then it's repeating the question back to people, listing out things, and waffling. Not necessarily in that order.
Among the things I'm good at.
And falling,
especially towards the end of a session when I've had a few drinks, it helps. I'll be honest.
Falling headfirst into a hot tub always helps as well.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
If in doubt.
I do try each time you get to a place. I think, okay, what can I fit in here? So on the previous seamstress journey, for example, you had kind of an Agatha Christie mystery to solve, and this time you had a set of different problems. Most of which I anticipated, though, as I say, I left the way you chose to interact with them wide open. But most of them I did anticipate this time, though it did get a bit off the rails right at the end, I will say.
I'll be interested to hear more about that then when we get there.
So, yes. Well, then it's probably time to move on to episode 26.
Okay. The one where the Pope's going to Pope. Excellent.
On the Seamstress luxury liner, the travellers are escorting a dubious cult on the journey from Dilla Brew to Geeka, where can be found the Baltic Star herself, along with the ship's cat. In a way, our heroes have been very diligent in their duties to the cult, known as the Geeka Diaspora, providing a regular schedule of protection. In other ways, they've been less enthusiastic in providing the best of service to them. For example, once a young girl, Leah Hivia, believed to have psionic tendencies, was delivered into the care of the cult, the travellers immediately decided to make arrangements to remove her from that situation. As a psionic, her mere existence in the Imperium is more than a minor challenge, but she would likely be welcomed in the Zodani consulate, which has borders not too far away. With that in mind, the party has contacted a Zodani agent, March Temple, to arrange for the girl to be smuggled away. Unfortunately, Temple couldn't get to the ship before it jumped, so the travellers launched a complicated mission to force the liner to delay the jump. Amazingly, this was astonishingly successful, and they may now have an ally aboard. Olivia Sharp, League Security Officer on the Seamstress, has a fairly complex relationship with our heroes, so before investigating too closely into how the jump was delayed, she was willing to have a quick conference with the party. Several of the team attempted to delay, distract, obfuscate, confuse, camouflage, and disrupt Sharp's examination of the security logs. Eventually, it fell to Kara, cornering Sharp in her office, to make the final move, and she proved very persuasive. In part, this was down to the fact that she was able to interest Sharp in the fact that Agnar had spotted someone following him. This, Sharp judged to be a more critical matter than the old news of the sabotage, just in case there was upcoming violence, perhaps. Eventually, it was time to welcome the diaspora to their public hot tub meeting. Zoe, Stefan, Rick, and Soraya, technically providing overwatch for security, played a weird game that involved attempting to not pelt people with tomatoes, but make it very likely that you might do so accidentally. Rose, Agnar, and Kat were relaxed in the periphery of the three tubs, occupied by the diaspora and their pope. Soraya had drifted off in the single tub further up the slope, satiated with a surfeit of kebab. Suddenly, Zoe's shout cut through the area as she shouted, "Gun, gun, gun!" and everyone turned to look where she was aiming. And that was where we resumed the story.
Yeah. Yet another classic Ben cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Can you imagine your games master having an NPC shouting "gun, gun, gun," and then just finishing for a session?
Especially the session.
This one was. Oh,
was good.
Sorry, dude.
No, I was going on the back of that because I was just say that because the session had started quite officiously because we were trying to smooth things over with Sharp, but we had slid into a classic Baltic style approach where Stefan was very drunk, Rick Verlo was very drunk because he'd been at the bar, and Soraya joined them, and the three of them were at the bar, and then decided to all wrap themselves up in towels and togas and go and gate crash. And so it was a fun vibe. There was tomatoes being thrown around and stuff. And Ewan's right, like, finally we get to the meat of the matter. And it's next week, which is, it's brave GM, I love it.
Yeah, and I think Socks has a really good point. It was the same with the walking into the room with the cat. You know, you're set up for a very positive. Oh, it's been a really fun session. You know, we're throwing some tomatoes at people. We found a cat. We've made a new friend, and then all of a sudden, it switches on you like that. Yeah. It's great. It's really good storytelling, and
we don't do a lot of combat in this stream, but when it does, it's nice to have it land with a bit of a bump, isn't it?
We do everything we can to avoid it mostly.
It's true.
Sorry,
but that's the other thing is that it was a really fun episode. You know, we spent a lot of time just sitting in the hot tubs throwing tomatoes at people and having other characters trying to figure out what was going on whilst they were being pelted, not pelted with tomatoes.
Yeah, and the pelting, it turns out, could have been foreshadowing as well. Not that I knew that at the time.
Yeah.
Very good. This is the episode where we found out the name of the Pope, Ewan. Do you remember it at all?
I don't. Just the Pope.
Pope Vesuvius von Cotswold.
You know, I'm not quite as informal as Cara, so
I can't possibly remember which episode it was when I found out the name of the Pope.
Well, yeah, I was going to say I don't know when that was suggested or by who. Who knows?
It was one of many that Mr. Leno posted. He posted many von Cotswolds, and one of them was Pope. And then he said, "I need to find out if Catholicism is a real thing in this galaxy, in this universe."
Wait, it happened.
See,
so we had a Pope. That was like season 1. So we have a Pope because of a Leno NPC thing in season 1. Pope something.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, I just thought it was the von Cotswold bit that was the NPC redeem. I didn't realise it was the Pope as well.
No, he gave me Pope Vesuvius
Ah.
von Cotswolds.
Oh, that's big.
So that is where that came from. Yeah.
His
Game changer.
His shadow still leans heavily over us, even when he's not around.
Indeed. Yes. And that was I mean, I think sometimes he likes to drop things in just to see what we'll do with them. And I thought this was an appropriate way to use it, frankly.
Most definitely. Very much like the was it him who did the 3 paintings as well?
Yes,
yes. The name that you eventually turned into the.
Yes, I turned it into. Yes. Yeah, that was a bit cheeky
stuff
on my part, but he dropped a name, and I thought it's just silly, that one.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love those off the wall references to things that people have put in chat that you throw into the game. It's good fun.
It's good. Part of what makes us.
You have to find a way to sort of mess with their heads, as they say in Empire Records. Always mess with their heads.
I know the truth. Oh.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so that one, I did love your game of trying to miss people with tomatoes while throwing tomatoes very, very close to them.
Yeah, get to make some skill rolls.
Certain points for in the hot tub.
That's Stefan's wheelhouse, of course.
Speaking of wheelhouses, Luke, sorry to interject. Just as we're about to change, there's a question.
A segue.
What's each character's favourite skill?
Oh, hang on. I need to get my sheet. Let's have a look.
Which I think is a really interesting one because it's not necessarily the best skill.
Oh. Let me have a look. Well, Kara's is philosophy. I've got to use it about 3 times in 2 years. But I love it when
hint.
Yeah, hint. I'm trying to remember the last time I did it. The first time was to find out if Sammy had been Manchurian candidated and said that you said that she was shaken and that, but she was okay because we were seriously worried about taking her back on the ship. So that was one, and then there were 2 more that actually worked. You gave it to me, and I was very pleased for that.
That one was the most legitimate though. The Manchurian candidate one, I feel, was a really apt use of the skill. I mean, they were all obviously relevant, but that one particularly stuck as that's totally a really good reason to use that skill, and a little bit off the wall.
Mm-hmm. It was a skill
not necessarily what you would think.
That'd be the choice too, yeah. Philosophy during character gen, because she was the artist, performer, IT was my angle. Philosophy was just one of the things that came to her during university. If I remember correctly, I might have chosen it, but just as a bit of an aside, because I wanted to add depth. So it's been nice to use it because she never uses it. A lot of our sciencey ones don't get used too often, so it's quite nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, that's Kara's. Ewan, have you got one for yours?
Yeah, I do. Stefan's, oddly enough, I think, it doesn't come up much in games. Streetwise and dexterity are his wheelhouse, but I feel as though his real longing is to use that flamethrower that he's purchased and as of yet just run around the ship on a drunken night, I think. So the man portable heavy weapons will be his favourite once he's fully utilised it. It's the one he's looking forward to using the most each time.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
We have got critters in eggs on our ship to look forward to.
Yeah, it might.
Full alien.
We might have to. We might be forced into.
So Rise, of course, is jack of all trades. She's got far fewer skills than everyone else because of her upbringing, like her background, character gen. But that was because I sacrificed a number of them to get in character gen jack of all trades, because it's an absolute beast of a thing to have. Two of them especially. So if you don't have a
It
skill,
does
you
a
roll.
lot of heavy lifting.
So
Sorry.
everyone that doesn't know necessarily, if you don't have a skill, you have to roll -3. It's huge. It's best to at least have a 0 skill, because then you're rolling flat, which a lot of us have a lot of 0 skills, so that's okay. But the vast number, if you look at a sheet, the vast number of things, I've got like 10 things of these, everything else is blank. So most things she'll do, she's -3, but Jack of all trades makes it a -2, then a -1. So she rolls -1 on anything that other people don't have. If we need to get in a sailing boat, Sarah will have a go. If we want to do, I don't know what else, fly an ornithopter, she'll have a go, -1. If we need someone to support Stefan with what he's doing, she can do it at a -1, and that's why I love it, really. It's a classic travel skill, to be honest, Jack of all trades.
It is. It comes from the days of the little black books, and it is an absolute classic.
It certainly is.
Agnar?
Which, I guess leaves us with Agnar. Who, again, I think his real love is xenology. It was part of his studies at university. And whilst it may not be his best skill, it is what he thoroughly enjoys using when he gets the chance to, I suppose.
You do ask for it every now and again. Can I use xenology on this?
Well, he's
Ben's
a
like,
Varga as well,
no.
which really helps, I think. To be honest.
So humans, it should be xenology.
Yeah. For anybody who's unaware, it's the study of alien life. Is that generally the
alien life
traveller terminology? Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything that's, I would assume, to him, not Varga.
Essentially, it's things that aren't what they collectively know as sophonts. So so it wouldn't apply to Aslan and Varga and humans and things like that.
Anything that's not the major intellectual species of the world, of the setting that we are in. But yeah, for him, that is the interesting thing, I suppose, about exploring space.
Cool.
Another good question.
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
It is.
Okay, so episode 27. Things took a turn for the violent aboard the Seamstress, giant liner and travelling buckyball pitch. Our heroes are aboard to provide private security for a group of cultists known as the Geeka Diaspora. At the moment, their main concern appears to be the fate of a young girl, Leah Hivia, who was delivered into the care of the cult and who appears to have psionic abilities, something more than frowned upon in the Imperium. With that in mind, they hatched a plan to welcome a Zodani agent aboard, in the hope that Leah can be taken to the Zodani consulate, where psionics are welcomed. To get her aboard, they did a little bit of sabotage to delay the liner's jump, which was successful, though it has complicated their relationship with security chief Olivia Sharp. Meanwhile, the Diaspora went hot tubbing, and the travellers set about protecting them from any threats. And it turned out there really was a threat. A human man attacked, opening fire and seriously wounding Rose, one of the crew of the Baltic Star. The man was killed by Agnar, but Kat, another of their crew, was slightly injured by a grenade the man had rigged as a trap to catch anyone who moved his body. Agnar saved Rose's life with his medical skills, while one of the cultists provided first aid to Kat. The entire hot tub area was evacuated, and eventually the travellers began to escort the Diaspora back to their quarters, just as the ship finally made its jump towards Geeka. It seems some of the passengers are very angry with the cult, and a dangerous situation on the main deck was settled as Soraya threatened an aggressive passenger with instant death, something that made him step back a pace or two. Some graffiti, not in a recognisable language, has been left on the outside of the lift down into the Diaspora's quarters, possibly also a sign of discontent among the passengers. After safely getting their charges back to their staterooms, the party got one piece of good news. Zoe received word and reported in to the rest of the crew, "We have an ally." And that was where we resumed the story. So,
Totally forgot about the graffiti, At the time, I thought we need to follow that up, but we never did. We never did.
Yeah.
Yep. You never mentioned it again.
slipped
Yeah.
into existence or non-existence. Yeah.
This was the one where things turned nasty.
It was. It did go, really quite violent suddenly, and there was genuine death and a couple of wounds, a couple of fairly serious ones.
It was a bit nerve-wracking because there were some dangerous rolls. There was the one grenade one, which I think there was something that could have made it nasty. I think if she'd have failed. Was that that Kat? If she'd have failed a certain
that
roll,
was Kat. I made the decision that she could, in the heat of the moment, make the right choice or the wrong choice, so to speak, about what to do once I think it was Agnar yelled to her that there was a grenade visible.
Yeah.
And she's not a combat type person. She wouldn't necessarily have thought that through. So I had to make a roll for her to determine whether or not she would drop the body back to where it was and let the body absorb some of the blast, or whether she'd, roll the thing all the way over and stand there looking at it like an idiot. So yeah, it could have gone very badly for her.
Which worked out rather well for me, because I think, was it Agnar who attempted to take control of the medical situation at least and sent her over to the body? Yeah. In some form of, I'm going to look after, he looked after, who was it who was wounded?
Rose. He stayed with Rose.
Yeah, so he looked after Rose and decided to send Kat over, which was a bad decision.
Yeah.
From my perspective, but from Agnar's perspective, I
this
suppose
was also the first time you were introduced to Blonde Vanessa, the medic, who later turned out to be relatively important.
Good old Blonde Vanessa.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Not to be confused with Tall Vanessa.
No, exactly. Not quite as blonde and a bit taller.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Again, Mr. Leno cheerfully gave me multiple Vanessas, multiple Tims, and
so he basically is to blame for the whole cult, really.
Yes, in part. I mean, the idea came from, or the background to it actually came from something I read, because it has a direct parallel with our world that we live in today, our society that we live in today, and discussions that were going on at the time in the Scottish Parliament. So that's what gave me the idea, but it was too good an opportunity not to use up all of those endless von Cotswolds on the cult, because it would be a legitimate excuse for why they'd all take the same name.
Yeah.
Irrespective of their birth name, they would just call themselves by this ceremonial name, if you like.
With a pope as well.
Exactly. Pope's gonna pope. Everyone got a bit of a chance to shine. Looking back over the notes, everyone had a real chance to shine in this. Agnar was heroic again, leaping up and saving with some rolls, literally saving Rose's life, which was amazing. Zoe got a chance. Zoe sort of led the group out, so she sort of was the real driving force, I feel, of the evacuation. Sarai, covered in blood, tried to explain to the massing crowd that everything was okay, and no one believed her at all, because I rolled absolutely horrifically. Which is unsurprising, she's covered in blood. It's like that scene from, is it Naked Gun? Calm down with the fireworks going on behind Trevin. Calm down, there's nothing to see here.
Yes. Move along. Nothing to see here. The world's largest firework display going off behind him.
Stefan did something which I wrote down, which I think was almost a passing comment, but was incredibly heroic. Someone swung a fist at the cultist, and Stefan just stepped in the way and absorbed the punch.
Yeah.
And while calming people
Definitely
down.
Sounds like a passing comment from my perspective.
Loved it. What a hero. And then Sarai jamming the gun under someone's neck. and everyone calming down, everyone backing away a bit after that.
Yeah.
Which feels perfect for their combination as well.
Yeah,
Like
Yes.
Stefan would just be like, okay, I don't know what to do here. I'm just going to get in the way. And Soraya would be like, right, take charge and calm everything down.
Oh, what a pair they are. They've known each other
Between
a
the
long
two of
time.
them. They have indeed.
Yeah. It does it does matter that there's enough flexibility in things that everyone can have a go, but also I think the way you guys pick through a story always means that you're looking for well, I can't do this but I can do that, this is where I can help, which I suppose when you're a close-knit group, that's how people actually are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, no, it's good. So we press on to episode 28. Our heroes are escorting a group of religious devotees, or zealots, okay, cultists, on the Seamstress, the giant buckyball liner plying the route between Dillabrew and Geeka. These people, the Geeka diaspora, had felt they might be in danger on the journey, and this is turning out to be prophetic. You like what I did there?
Strong. Always strong.
Okay, I gave you a little hint there. There seems to be little love for them among the passengers and crew of the ship. A general undercurrent of unpleasant words and angry faces has now exploded into violence when a heavily armoured and well-equipped gunman attacked the diaspora in the huge hot tub area in the ship. The party dealt with that smartly, but Kat, Aralesti and Rose were injured, Rose quite seriously. In better news, their ally, at least at the moment, March Temple, has made it aboard safely. They wanted her to reach the ship so that she could assist with a young girl, Leah Hivia, who has been placed in the care of the diaspora and might be at some risk, owing to her psionic abilities. When our heroes visited Rose in the hospital aboard the liner, she handed them a secret communication device, courtesy of March Temple, that allows them to stay in touch without revealing their connection to each other through normal communication channels. Temple is laying low, so there'll be no obvious way to work out that she's working with the travellers. Olivia Sharp, the ship's head of security, had no luck identifying the hot tub attacker, whom the security staff had therefore nicknamed Piggles. So she called Agnar to visit her office to update him on their lack of progress so far. She did reveal that the armour the man wore was unusual, likely expensive, made in the Varga extents, and not something you'd usually find on an overweight human in an area of the ship where most people were dressed for, well, tubbing. Kara went along with Agnar for that meeting and later used her hacking skills to find out what she could, and managed to find plenty of video of the man moving around the liner, and she worked out where on the ship he was staying. Formerly staying, that is. Now he's staying in a metal drawer in a mortuary, of course. And that is where we resumed the story.
See, for me, this one had another one of those things that felt big at the time, but we just dropped because I don't know. We had too much. We were thinking of other things. We had stuff on our plate, but the Varga armor, we skirted around for a reasonable amount during this episode. I think we talked about it a little bit, and we talked about the Varga on the last trip, and then we didn't actually bring it up again, did we? I don't think.
No, the graffiti and all that as well, because we were trying. Yeah, because we tried to work out whether it was the same people or different people briefly, didn't we? We were discussing it, and then it died after this.
Yeah.
You can't follow every plot, I guess. Impossible.
No. Certainly, I'm not suggesting we should. I just think it's interesting because it felt big at the time. It felt like a big reveal from Ben, personally, to me.
A very proud big reveal that we never followed.
Yeah.
Well, as you say, you can't follow every track, and if you had followed that one, you'd have missed other bits, if you know what I mean. Other things wouldn't have played out.
Yeah, and I think it felt like there were a lot of tracks on this one, to be fair. A couple of very clear main directives, but a lot of things that we could have followed up on that we didn't always necessarily.
And I'm sure it won't come as a surprise, but the reason they nicknamed him Piggles was because somebody gave us Piggles as a name in NPC.
Yes. That one I did get.
I'm not at all surprised.
Because people like to mess with me.
And why not? Luke and I thoroughly encourage you to mess with Ben at every
Yeah,
opportunity,
please
dear
do.
viewers.
Too right.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was quite an interesting one actually. This because not only was the aftermath of the action, but also you guys started to put together the narrative of what was going on with the main quest. The one other than Leah, the main happening, and this was where it started, which is why I thought it. I mean, it wouldn't really have counted as a hint because there's no way you'd have noticed it when I read it out at the time. But it gave me a smirk in my head when I said that the attack, the risk of violence turned out to be prophetic.
Yeah.
Which obviously you guys couldn't possibly have twigged at the time was a hint. But
Head smirks are the most self-indulgent smirks.
They are. It's very smug doing that. But it amused me.
And to be fair, it's a good time to do it as a GM because you don't want to really do it during the game, but during the intro, it's perfectly fine. Yeah. This to me though felt like the episode where it all got a little bit blurred for me. The attacks on the cult and the hatred towards the cult from the general populace sort of started to kick up a little bit as well, and I was like, oh, where does one end and one begin? Are these two separate things? Is this the same thing? Is this, at this point in time, I was questioning whether one was the attacks were a spillover of the general feeling towards the cult from everyone on the ship, whether it was just, whether there were two completely separate incidents. It was interesting, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously if you'd followed the line of the graffiti, it would have probably given you a bit of a clue eventually. It would have taken a while, but Sammy would have been able to help you out with that.
Ah, Sammy, of course.
And
if in doubt.
Yeah. But
ask Sammy.
But you also had an actual archaeologist, if you like, in your party.
Well, she came to us later on, of course, with a lead in for our next season.
Yeah. So you did have people you could go to, and and that would have provided another hint. But as it turns out, you didn't need it. You twigged it actually pretty quickly.
Instead, the person we went to was Rose to check she's okay, with some fluffy moamps and some meat on sticks randomly. And just had a nice chat.
Oddly enough, I don't think we go to people that are working for us as much as we go to people that are deemed to be of a higher station than our crew.
Yes.
Imperial Naval Mama, Libby Sharp. Yeah. We go to quite a lot.
The employees are basically for mucking out Caboodle. That's what they're for.
Maybe
exactly.
Season 3, Luke.
We're going to use
we need
our
to
crew
ask more opinions of the educated crew that we have.
We have a very educated crew.
We do. To be fair, there's a lot of experience. Yeah. There's a lot of different experiences there. For sure.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
We can
I do
still
love
see
that picture as well.
We can still see our Navy mum, though, right, Ewan? Well, you're not going to stop me from going to see our Navy mum.
Yeah, we're still going to ask her for stuff.
Okay, that's great. We're giving her quite a lot, so I think
we just need to balance it out a bit more.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So, episode 29.
Oh, yes.
Our travellers are not having a completely relaxing time aboard the Seamstress, the giant liner and buckyball pitch, as they make their way back to Geeka to rejoin their ship, the Baltic Star. The big fly that is currently doing the backstroke in their ointment is the Geeka Diaspora, a group of pilgrims on their return to the planet they consider their home. They have in their care a young girl called Leahivia, who seems to be psionic, a bit of a problem in the Imperium. Our heroes aren't too pleased to find this young person being taken care of by what is essentially a cult, and have taken steps to resolve this matter once and for all at Geeka. Unfortunately, the Diaspora seems to be less popular on board the liner than the vegetarian option at a Varga restaurant, and this has already led to one very violent incident, where a lone attacker went after the Diaspora in the expansive hot tub area of the ship. He failed to injure any of the pilgrims, but his attack injured 2 of the Baltic Star crew. Olivia Sharp, chief of security aboard the Seamstress, has been unable to find out the real identity of the attacker, despite his unusual armour, high-quality weapons, and, well, the way she had full access to his corpse. Agnar and Kara, however, found out where this villain was quartered on the ship. They paid the room a visit, and actually got Sharp's permission to enter and investigate. The room didn't contain anything useful in terms of information, but they did trigger an electric trap which slightly injured Kara. They took the device, but Kara also shot a series of excellent pictures and then took a video there for her vlogging community, though it's not uploaded yet. As they left, without much new to go on, Johnny called and asked if they knew anyone with influence on Geeka, because the Diaspora want a favour of some kind. And that was where we resumed the story.
Oh, I see. It was the one where Agnar got electro-floofy.
Which sounds like a really good album name.
It does, doesn't it? It's
Electro Floofy. Yeah.
Agnar gets electro-floofy. I like it, yes. That's just one of our near-death experiences, of course.
One of the many.
One of them many, too right.
One of the many.
This was an episode that was mostly focused. There was a lot, there's a lot going on, but if I remember correctly, the whole episode took place in basically a corridor in a room.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
It's Pickle's room, right? The Pickle's room.
Yes.
We'd found out where his room was. We'd done some stuff to find out where he was.
Yeah. And the room was basically stripped of anything useful and just contained a nasty little trap.
Yes.
Which was another I don't know, this one might have been a character decision, an NPC decision, I suppose, or a character quirk, but was another thing that we didn't necessarily see replicated throughout the third attack when we went there. It wasn't exactly the same, which I was kind of expecting it to be similar, but felt like more information that was that could have led us somewhere, but we didn't pursue or didn't lead us anywhere.
Kara did hand over, because we did grab the thing and she took it into Sharp, of course, in the latest episode.
That's true, yeah.
When they're questioning the other guy, wasn't it? The second guy. So at least something came from our time here rather than near death. Because Kara got zinged, she took a slight injury. Because Agnar had his proper arm on, didn't he, I think? And
yes,
he's just a tougher guy anyway. Well, it's a bit of a scary moment.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's always a little bit interesting when it felt like a little bit of a different game where you're blundering into a trap in a locked behind a door. Like we were playing Fighting Fantasy. Like, yes, I push open the door and suddenly get electrocuted.
Yeah. And there was a big struggle with the door and a big struggle with the trap.
He's just not very good with doors.
I didn't really feel, very sure of what was going on in the room. I was like, there was a point where I was thinking, there's not a lot here. What are we here for? And then, obviously we did find stuff which really helped out in the end. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
And led to a lot of questions for me. rather than my characters, but have led to a lot of interesting questions, I think.
For sure. Well, for me, this is where Kara started taking insurance. That was why she did the video with the stuff and held it. There's a few stages where she wanted to have things in case. Well, you know, Kara's historically, she'll throw everything on the table if need be. She's done it a few times in the past.
Yeah.
And so she's always gathering stuff ready if it suits them to just throw it all over to Sharp or even to the reporter, for example, anything. If she just, and that's why she had it there. She had it ready to go, which footage of the thing to her followers, which could have blown everything open potentially, but she has it there just for insurance, but never sent it in the end. So.
Yeah. Yes. It was. It wasn't exactly intended to be too much of a distraction. It was just the guy wasn't expecting to come back from his mission. That's I suppose the only thing you were supposed to take from it.
Yeah.
He was anticipating he would eventually be gunned down by someone who was going to do as much damage as he could first. So he just left a nasty little surprise for anyone who came after him.
But I suppose that's a really interesting thing to combine with the other person that wasn't necessarily in the same mindset.
Absolutely.
It leads some disparity in their planning, or at least in how strict their orders were, I suppose, or their directive was.
Yeah. Yes. There are a couple of things I probably still shouldn't tell you, but they had quite different missions.
Mm-hmm.
They were involved in quite different phases of the process, and originally the person who you ended up dealing with, who would have launched the third attack, wasn't supposed to launch that attack. That was supposed to be the second attack by the second person.
Oh.
So
now, see, that just leads to more questions, Ben. I mean, I approve, but
so was what we thought the second attack just a bit of fun, a bonus attack?
The second attack was supposed to happen the way it did, but he was expecting to escape and then have another go.
Got it.
Mm.
And the idea would have been that originally he would have collected one or possibly both of those cylinder devices, and his end would have been met when he set them off in an enclosed space that also included a lot of the diaspora.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
The basic concept was that if the firebombs had gone off the way they were intended to, had you guys not, dealt with them, your entire group, including the diaspora, would have had to move to a different location.
Of course, which he could have sorted.
And in all the chaos, he was expecting to be able to sneak in and launch the third attack.
Got it.
But the woman you eventually went after was actually the person who'd hired them and recruited them. She was in charge of the group.
Swear.
So she kind of had to eventually take over herself.
There you go.
Because, in fact, of what happened with the next episode. So we should probably sneak to episode 30.
Can I very quickly pose a question to Luke?
You certainly can.
From me to Luke. Luke,
when's
Cara going to next lay things on the table? Because it's been a while.
It has, hasn't it?
And I like it when she lays things on. I like it when she lays things on the table.
I really like it when she lays things on the table. My favourite laying thing on the table, because she's done it with Sharp at least, and she's done it with exactly. But my favourite was Osin, of course.
That was an amazing one. It just laid out like 4 months of gameplay.
that was the one that
all
you
of
and
the
I
stuff that we discovered.
You and I have been messaging each other all week about how there was all these little threads, like how on earth are we going to make this work? And then I was like, fine, I've got Kara's just got to say it all. Like a 10-point plan, which I think I went through. It's like 10 point. These are the 10 points. This is what we can offer you. And yeah, so I'd love a Kara laying it on the table. I'm hoping
she's the one to hardball it out of all of our characters, I think.
Yeah,
if we've got stuff to blackmail or to persuade people with, she's the one.
She'll just do it. She's got the right mix of skills, I guess, for it. I always worry when Agnar get asked things. He just comes across as a terrible liar.
Yeah.
When there's a question, I'm like, oh no, don't ask Agnar. He's like got a blush red under his fur. That'd be terrible.
Totally me.
Just playing you at this point, yeah. I don't know. I'm hoping soon. We'll see. Let's see what it's like back on Geeka. We've got some Pelago.
Yeah, there's no rush. There's no, when the time's right. But...
I'm hoping for a good bit of laying everything on the table at some point in 2023. At least one.
I'm sure the opportunity will arise, because a lot of these worlds you visit, the stories that weave together are fairly complex. Some of them. So, yes. So, episode 30. Our story resumes aboard the Seamstress, part liner, part stadium, where our heroes are escorting a controversial group of cultists to Geeka. Their first problem with their temporary employers arose when the group took possession of a young girl, Leah Hivia, a psionic, and they've sought the help of a Zodani ally with that matter. Their second problem arose just as the ship began its jump. An unidentified attacker went after the cult, known as the Geeka Diaspora, in the hot tub area of the ship. None of the Diaspora were hurt, but Kat was slightly injured and Rose was hurt quite badly. Investigating the attacker, the travellers found an empty stateroom with a nasty trap set for anyone investigating. They reported it to Olivia Sharp, League Security Chief of Board, and took the opportunity to play a game of Isixa, a strategic board game. A third problem with the Diaspora has also arisen. They are expecting to be able to return to the Herrenhal, an island on Geeka, but this island has been forbidden by the Imperial Navy for some unknown reason. Olivia Sharp, over the Isixa board, was able to tell them that Herrenhal is indeed forbidden, though a special exemption is made for the annual Pelago race, which takes place just after the Seamstress arrives at Geeka. Returning to the Diaspora's quarters, the travellers witness a firebombing of the lift shaft. Luckily, nobody was hurt too badly, though Zoe was burnt. Pursuing the attacker, a man Agnar recognised from earlier on the cruise, Soraya, Agnar and Zoe captured him and took him down into the emergency tunnels by the outer skin of the ship. There they threatened and tortured him until he eventually said, "We are the faithful. I can't fail." And that is where we resume the story.
This is where we get another touch of Ewan's innate brutality. There's more in episode 31, of course. It gets very dark.
No, Luke.
But we get a little bit at the end of this episode where he's been holding it on. There were no gardeners on board, so he went for the next thing. It was
Yes.
It was nice. We had yet another meeting with Sharp. We had a load of meetings with Sharp, I feel, this time. She was like our point. I guess we were working together with her more. The first time we tried to avoid her for half of it because we didn't know how to deal with her. But this time we went straight in with her, didn't we? So everything we knew we shared with her this time.
Yeah, I mean, you could actually make a case that you laid your cards on the table.
We did. Very early days.
True.
I don't think it's going to count, though.
Really?
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
Not a throwback. Kind of a throwback.
This is where
I see your point there, Ben.
Yeah, exactly. There was a card because in the past we were more sneaky about it, weren't
more
we?
guarded with her, definitely.
Yeah.
About what we told her because we weren't sure. Well, I didn't feel sure about the reception that we would get necessarily, but I'd certainly this trip felt a lot more confident.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'd sort of she'd introduced you to Telon after all.
Yes, exactly.
Good man.
Yeah.
Oh, good man.
Good rider. Good rider. Good, very good Varga.
Very
Resplendent, some might say.
What a resplendent Varga. So resplendent.
Resplends all over the place.
What a guy.
Yes, Socks, it's very unfair. When I do set up battles, it does seem to be the NPCs that end up taking the brunt of it, which is I feel is very unfair. It's a shame, but I have to kind of let that happen. It would be cheating to just say, no, it doesn't hit Rose, it hits Agnar.
Well, I can roll with that. I don't mind that so much.
I think it would make things easier on Luke and I, if I'm honest. We'd probably feel less bad about things.
Exactly that. I like this episode because it brought in 2 bits of canonical story, and you know me, I love canon.
Yeah.
You brought in the what's it called? Ezixa the game, which Agnar has retconned as being a big Agnar game. I love that. I love that game. And you also of course brought in the idea of the racing, the Pelago race.
The Pelago race,
the Pelago race, which is great.
Yes.
So that's another sporting event in our universe.
It is, and potentially an important one, because it's what Sharp's going to be enjoying. You've met a journalist who's there to cover it. It could interact with lots of people.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we'll see what you do when you get to Geeka, but yes, that could be an interesting one.
We know what's happening when we go to Geeka. We can't go to Earth Park, so we're going to go to the bar.
All the races.
Straight
Baltic Star, a day at the races.
All dice rolls all the time. Yes.
This for me, Ben, was the episode where I thought something was up. When the person that Agnar interrogated was like, "Oh yeah, I got my orders long ago." I was like, and they knew that the diaspora would be on this cruise, and that may not have been the way that it was planned out, but in my head, I was thinking, so this has been planned well in advance. Surely somebody has got to have orchestrated both the diaspora getting on this cruise and the attackers getting on this cruise at the same time.
Yeah. Well,
this is where I think it all started to come together for me.
In fact, as you've brought that up, we should probably go on to the next episode, shouldn't we? Because it's contiguous with this one.
Can I just say before that, that, and I think Ewan has said it at least to me, if not in conversation otherwise, that part of the reason why Agnar responded so aggressively is because it was one of our non-combat crew members who were at risk.
Yeah.
Because we've got combat crew members. Zoe, she can look after herself. If Zoe dies, it sucks, but she looks after herself.
Yeah.
There's other people, even Sammy, as much as we love her, can look after herself. Rick is a drunken scientist who Agnar gets on quite well with.
Scientist.
just like all scientists. And so I think that was part of it. When he ended up, because it was Rick that nearly got firebombed, just some scientist guy.
It felt a lot different to, as Luke says, other NPCs if they would have been attacked. It felt a lot different to that. Certainly to Johnny, who can clearly fend for himself. He's quite street smart, isn't he? And he knows what he's doing. But also the situation, I think, they were just going down the lift. It wasn't necessarily that they were going down to the floor that the diaspora was on. Yes, they might have been part of the party, but do you really know that if you're... Unless it's organised, you don't know that the diaspora, everybody in the diaspora party is on the same floor, do you? It's just a floor on a space cruise. So realistically, he could have been using the same elevator as them and had a fire grenade, incendiary grenade thrown at him.
Yeah,
no reason whatsoever.
It
felt a bit wrong.
Yeah, he's not, as you rightly say, he's not actually one of the people who suits up with big guns and goes putting himself into danger.
Yeah.
And there are people in your group who are, who take that risk on the chin, and he isn't really one of them.
No.
And it isn't fair when that kind of thing happens to Rose or Kat. They're not really there for that.
Yeah, and I don't think Agnar would react in the same way if it was somebody else necessarily, depending on the person.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us would. I don't think any of us would react necessarily that way if it was Rick. But
Yeah.
for Agnar, that was a definite.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. It's quite protective of it.
Of course, Rick was our first contact to the ship, because it was Palia that died, of course, to get us on the Baltic Star, who was Rick's co-worker, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
He was effectively the very first person you sort of made a real connection with, except possibly Bast.
Bast.
Yeah. And one day we will have to tell people the story of how Bast joined the crew.
Oh God, I find my beer-stained notes somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
Shanghai.
There's a question about that somewhat relates to that, as to whether we're going to do any more one-shots of the characters' backgrounds.
Good man.
Oh, I hope so.
We've got one planned. We've got to plan it, but we've got an idea.
We have got an idea for one, which could work very well for Stefan and Soraya.
Okay.
But likewise, I'd like to think there's something that we could throw in with Bast somewhere. It might be slightly more tricky.
I've heard about
there's no
90,
reason
because a lot of it was played through, wasn't it? But
I've heard 90 different backstories for Bast through all the posts. which one is real?
That is very true. But it could be an interesting game to play, whether it's tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Canon. I don't know how Luke feels about that compared to regular canon.
I like the idea of it being like yeah.
It could always be a tall tale he tells one night. You can play through a tall tale rather than a real one.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is that they're all being told in the Baltic Bar, aren't they? So it's not necessarily 100%. Gospel. It's yeah. Anyway,
possibilities.
Yeah. Yes, maybe is the answer. It'd be nice to do something. we should try.
Get those,
definitely. It's a busy schedule, to be fair, at the minute.
Yeah.
We're full.
Yeah, we currently have a lot of Saturday stuff going on.
Yeah. But we would definitely like to get more things with viewers, I think, at some point.
And
see what we can do.
It's a fun rules light sort of game setup we play, and they can be quite weird and silly and different. It's quite a nice thing to do. Yeah. So yes, episode 31. The curtain rises aboard the Seamstress, a vast liner travelling from Dillabrew to Geeka. The travellers are on board, heading back to collect their beloved Baltic Star following its refit. On the way, they've decided to work some of the cost of their passage by acting as security for a travelling pilgrimage of cultists, known as the Geeka Diaspora. In addition to their security duties, the Diaspora have asked our heroes to help them return to their ancestral home on Geeka, an island called Herrenhal. Though seemingly that island is forbidden. In fact, you're usually not allowed within 100 kilometres of it. An exception is made for the annual Pelago race, but even then the competitors are not allowed to go on the island. There have been a few matters of concern. Firstly, the Diaspora took possession of a young girl with psionic abilities. The travellers felt she wasn't best served in the company of this group and have made some arrangements to come up with some form of alternative. Perhaps more urgent, the Diaspora has come under attack twice, and both times members of the party have been injured. The first attacker, whom Agnar killed during the attack, left no useful information other than a booby-trapped cabin. The second attacker, whom Agnar merely tortured, so that's progress, made some vague statements that led the travellers to think he was part of a 3-stage ordeal. that the diaspora might be only part of the way through. He said he was exiled 3 years earlier to prepare for this vital mission. They delivered the attacker to League Security Chief Olivia Sharp, who wants to interrogate him. And meanwhile, Soraya had taken an interest in a few people loitering around the second attack's aftermath. Leading the group off for a drink, one of them seemed particularly suspicious, and this person was identified and her quarters located. 3 of the travellers went to visit the stateroom. Kara backed off away from the door. Agnar pressed himself against the wall alongside the door, and Soraya knocked on the door. And that was where we resumed the story. So this was everything leading up to the fight in the stateroom.
Exactly. It started with Soraya peeling off from the Agnar and Zoe. We know that Zoe's not against a bit of torture if needed, and Agnar was in protect the crew mode, I think. So I think the first 20 minutes of that episode was a blow-by-blow torture account.
I think it probably was, yep.
With broken arms. Oh, and Agnar's really good use of that.
Don't put people off watching it, Luke.
What was...
It wasn't
some people
graphic.
like it for that. Agnar, what you used your bubble of silence or whatever it was so that his screams couldn't be heard.
Sphere of silence.
Yeah. That's quite bleak. Normally it's just been used so you can't hear Kara singing. It went a little bit the other way.
Yeah, it was a different choice. Yeah.
But at least we learned about the trial of air that way. And then Soraya was trying to draw the crowd. It gathered a crowd before you dragged him downstairs, didn't it? So Soraya dragged everyone off.
Yeah.
So come on, I'll buy you a
There was a lot of
drink
attention.
before the buckyball starts. Come on, guys. And she managed to drag some and got chatting with Ferrily.
Yeah, and the drink led to a wealth of information that we'll get onto later, or at least an opportunity to act on. I don't know how to put this. To act on something that possibly could have ended badly if we hadn't have found out that information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or Soraya hadn't.
And there was a thing I put in that you made a roll to find out how she reacted when you referred to the diaspora as a cult.
Yes.
And you rolled pretty well, possibly with Kelly power to help you, but you rolled pretty well.
Probably Kelly power.
And as a consequence, realised that she reacted very badly to them being referred to as a cult.
Which felt like a big thing when you asked for the role. Yeah. And then when it came up, it was like, okay, this could lead somewhere. Which I think Soraya and Luke acted on very well.
It was certainly providing increasingly convincing evidence to you guys, I think, at that point.
Yeah. I think this was definitely where it started coming together, that there's two sides to the coin, I guess. And the highlight of the whole episode was Soraya storming back to her and Stefan's room and throwing Cat onto Stefan to wake him up.
Oh, the hairy chest.
The hairy chest.
Yes, the whole hairy chest came
chest
from.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
good times.
Cannon is the bane of my existence. And the joy of Luke's. I feel.
Yeah. Yes, and of course it was your chance to visit Kookaburras.
Yes.
You spent a lot more time in Dukes than in Kookaburras.
That is true. That is true. It was very similar. Just everything was the other way around. It was a bit strange.
Yeah. Yes. Still, it was a good track through that one. Yes. So we move on to episode 32. Welcome aboard the Seamstress, luxury liner and international sporting venue with hot tubs. The travellers have taken a job aboard looking after a travelling group of cultists as they make their way home to Geeka. A nice, easy, safe job escorting a group of people who seem fairly disliked in an enclosed environment surrounded by potential threats. Not just potential threats. Twice, the cult known as the Geeker Diaspora has come under attack, and both times the danger has been dealt with by our heroes. After the second attack, Soraya went on the offensive, looking for any lead to a possible third attack. Finding a suspect, she, Agnar, and Kara went looking for trouble, in the form of a suspicious character, and tracked her to her quarters. The woman didn't seem to want to let them in, partly because they acted very much like stalkers, but the travellers deployed an EMP device that put out the lights and opened the locked door. A very useful thing indeed, starlight drops in the eyes, allowed our intrepid three to see in the dark, something really very handy. The woman inside had donned a sophisticated outfit that could make her very hard to see for anyone relying on natural light, but it didn't help her much in the dark. She made a break for it, and Agnar and Soraya tried to stop her, but failed badly. As the woman fled out of the dark room, Kara stopped her with a firm punch from a stun fist. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. I'll try that again. As the woman fled, Kara hit her with... Wow, it really was Kara. Doing combat. Okay. Back in the room, the travellers had found a case containing unknown cylinders. As they searched and decided what to do, the EMP wore off, the woman almost entirely disappeared, and in the confusion, she was able to activate one of the cylinders. The party dropped another EMP that took out the lights once more and prevented the door from locking, but quickly it became clear the device the woman had activated was very dangerous. It became hard to breathe, and the travellers had to run for it. In the chaos, the woman died, along with two of her neighbouring passengers, but the party all survived. Agnar, with appropriate respect for the recently departed, immediately stripped her of her chameleon suit. Was this woman planning the third attack on the Diaspora? Before they really had time to answer that question, they got a call from Freya Kranev, the tame carvings expert, telling them they really must take a look at the forbidden island of Herrenhal on Geeka, coincidentally the place the Diaspora are very keen to make their home. And that is where we resume the story.
This one was just a puzzle of how to be, almost like a game of chess, like how to be the one that's ahead at any moment. And it kept going from one side to the other. Just as one side got a bit cocky about their situation, you know, the starlight drops, then she managed to do something, but then we punched and knocked her down. Then the EMP went, but then that ran out, and then she did that, and then we did that, and then she did that, and then...
Because the EMP was knocking out the lights, but at the same time was knocking out her chameleon suit.
Exactly.
So it would go dark, and she'd think, wow, I'm even harder to see now, but she'd be standing there completely obvious.
Yeah, well, we've got all our starlight drops in, and she's just...
Yeah. Because she couldn't see in the dark that she was visible.
Not only that, but it was like two-player chess because, you know, Luke and I had come up with a really good plan, and then as soon as I think we came back from the break, I decided to do exactly the opposite of what we'd agreed.
Yes, that's right.
And she got out of the room again.
Yeah.
So, you know, Luke had to deal with a lot at that episode.
Yeah, and I'm the one that nearly died because of it. Agnar's all right with his fancy suit and his helmet.
Yeah.
It was Kara that was rolling dice.
Which she didn't realise. But yeah, he didn't realise until, you know, halfway down the corridor that, actually I've got inbuilt oxygen in my... I feel as though Agnar probably would have done.
I was wondering if we were going to have one of those moments where there would be a sad Olivia Sharp who would sort of be looking at the dead body of Agnar on a mock table and sort of go, it's just baffling to me why he didn't put the helmet on. Helmet on.
Yeah, I feel as though that's one of those moments that was a big differential between me and Agnar, is that clearly he is well adjusted to wearing that suit and knowing its capabilities. Me, however, not so much. But we got there in the end. Thanks.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, it's an absolutely brilliant picture, by the way, for this one, Luke, because it is the one with sci-fi technology. It was chameleon suits, and it was the weird cylinders and all the rest. Yes,
the cylinders and the
EMPs
searching through the briefcases and
and her tablet as well.
Key EMPs.
Yes, the EMPs. Yeah, I love threatening EMP. That was like a
Yeah.
room. You got to throw an EMP from time to time and sniffing the laptop, of course.
EMPs can be really useful, but against sort of unhardened technology,
They are a
can
bit
be
like
really useful.
using a hammer to crack an egg, but they do crack the egg.
Yeah.
If you've got
Yes.
a problem
Just chuck an
and it's
EMP in.
tech-based,
It's the future, so chuck an EMP in.
yeah.
But
Set
sadly,
off a nuclear bomb, but without all the destruction.
Sure.
That's what you got to do.
Isn't it what you said? If the EMP is too many levels above, it just fries it, though, right? Oh, it
Yeah.
can do, yeah. So that's slightly risky because she's got quite high level EMPs, I think, mostly. So you're always
Yeah.
running that risk.
Yeah, I mean, if you have there's a sort of point where the EMP is worthless against tech of a certain tech level. There's a point where it just fries it permanently, and there's a point where it knocks it out temporarily. And then you have to roll a die to determine exactly how long. So, it was it's a useful tool, but it can have unintended side effects. And you know the old expression that if somebody says, "Oh, I was close," and the answer is close only counts with horseshoes and hand grenades. Because am I right in saying if you play horseshoes, you get a point if it hits the post but doesn't stay round it? Is that right?
I think that sounds about right. If you can clang it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can be close and get a point in horseshoes, and obviously close works with hand grenades.
That sounds like a saying from Army Intelligence or something.
Probably. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
It was a good level. There was another mission that was all contained in one small space, in a corridor and a room.
Yeah.
But it played out as the next chapter, and it was deadly, and people did die, and it did go this way and that, and it did add to it pushed the story on, I guess. It made things a bit clearer to us.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Yeah. Was it this one where we ended? Did we end when Agnard retrieved the suit? Had he already? Because I in my mind have this vivid image of him triaging people that were beyond his help at the time.
Yeah.
In my mind, but might not have actually been true.
Yes, I think it literally ended just after the suit was taken, and then you got the call over your comms from Freya.
Yeah. So people had died in the corridors, hadn't they?
They had, yeah. Not that Freya knew that at the time she made the call, of course.
No.
Hi guys, just dropping in.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Not really completely aware of what had gone on.
No. But again, a wonderful juxtaposition.
Well, she didn't necessarily have any reason to think that you'd gone into serious harm's way. After all, you were only going to knock on a door and talk to someone.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Maybe it's another point we should take going forward, Luke, is that better communication would improve these situations.
Honestly, I think by the time you had anything to tell her, the first EMP had already been deployed. So
well, yeah.
You mean you want to move the outsider crew into the insider crew WhatsApp group? We've already got a group for them, the Baltic Star group. They're not in the inner circle group. Come on, that gets a bit big then. Then there's no point having
the
the
active
Star
people group.
Exactly.
Quite right. And so we move on to episode 33. So, following the attacks on the Geeka diaspora, a travelling religious sect currently passengers aboard the Seamstress, our heroes took the offensive. They followed a suspicious person, tentatively identified as Ferrily Harmon, to her quarters, and when they approached her, they did battle, and she died in the ensuing fight, killed by her own murderous device. A second device was seized by the travellers and later handed over to Olivia Sharp, League security officer. She made use of the party's skills, using the device to confirm that the assailant they already had in custody is part of the same conspiracy. Meanwhile, one of the members of the diaspora has been quietly wandering off for some reason, and based on the information they've gathered, there may be no more attacks, if there were only going to be the supposed 3 of them. At the security office, our heroes met a journalist, Verima Sefran, on her way to cover the Pelago race on Geeka. She seems to have picked up the fact there might be a story going on aboard the Seamstress. On the plus side, Sharp offered to help them secure medical supplies. Back in the party's quarters, the chameleon suit that Harmon was wearing looks like it doesn't fit Stefan, which is a shame given his proclivities, and Sammy passes on the message that the diaspora wants to visit the ski slope together as soon as possible. Kara, trying to steer the journalist away from anything too difficult to explain, offered to buy her a drink. And as soon as they were comfortable, Sefran said, "For a journalist, there are only 3 types of people: consumers, sources, and subjects of stories. The opportunity for you to be a mere consumer is long gone, so it's time to pick, source or subject." And that was where we resumed the story. So, yeah, this was a convoluted one, because the stuff with Sharp and tricking the suspect, tricking the firebomber, worked out really well for you guys, I thought.
That worked really well, didn't it? Because Joey Swindon was his pseudonym, I believe. Yeah, we had to. Sharp did that really well with Kara turning up with the cylinder, and that was good. That was that good.
But also, I think Kara did really well with the journalist in this one. I felt so at the time.
Bamboozling her to get Agnar in.
Was it this one or was it the next? Was it the end of this one?
I think it was in the next one, because you'd only just sat down in this one.
Yeah,
this was the one where she went up to talk to her so that Agnar could sneak in. 'Cause you had your big conversation with Sharp.
Yeah.
But I think it led in. This was leading into that. Was her distracting somewhat from the whole situation. And this was one of those episodes that we spent our usual time playing, I think, but was a very short period of in-game time.
Yes.
Realistically.
Like half an hour of in-game time.
Yeah, it really was. Yes, it was definitely
for good reason.
It was one of those times where the collapsing of real time and game time went very much backwards, so to speak. It took us 3.5 hours to play through 20 minutes of game.
Yeah, but for good reason, because I think there was good storyline content to come from it, or good setting up of storyline content, if not directly, to come from it. Definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
But it was also, it felt like a bit of a kick in the teeth, Ben. We'd just, we'd foiled the plot, and now we were set with a journalist who was
chasing us around,
adamant on either getting information from us or taking us down. Not necessarily taking us down, but putting us in the limelight for something that we wouldn't necessarily want to be part of. I wouldn't say she's a fess, but verging on that sort of territory.
Yes, and Socks, if you're asking about Joey Swindon, the name, Nuclear Winter UK.
Nuclear Winter.
Which is
heard in these parts for a while.
Yeah. That's who inflicted that one upon us.
There's been a lot of NPC names from chat in this season, Ben. I mean, there might have been an equal number in season 1, but I just don't remember that far back. But it's been good.
Yeah, there were a big bunch, because for a while Mr. Leno was dropping in like 2 or 3 per session.
Yeah.
And there was a limit to how quickly I could plow through them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And and there are a few left on the list that a fair few actually that we haven't got round.
I
to
like
yet.
it. I approve.
Excellent. That is good fun.
Yeah.
So, well, it's a good episode.
Yeah.
Just trying to look through if there's anything.
Yes. There are a few crit, I think, of those names that you did as well. Yeah, the NPC names.
Oh, season 3, it's the season of crit.
That's what we've been looking forward to.
we shall find out, won't we?
It's all just been warming up until that point.
Definitely. Yeah, it's bound to be the right way to go. So, we are on to episode 34.
Oh, the penultimate.
So this is effectively our penultimate episode for the season.
The one with the ornithopter suits.
The one with the ornithopter suits. Yeah. Yes, I like the fact that you picked the one with the ornithopter suits, because clearly that was
the most important part.
A very important part of the episode. A random conversation with a Tim.
I mean, to be fair, ornithopters are... it's a cool word. I very much enjoy the word, but it's also a cool engineering thing. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, it is.
Things that flap and fly.
Yeah. Did you see someone built a working one?
No, I didn't. I think my
Relatively
only knowledge
recently.
of it is Scrap Heap Challenge. I think it's the only reason I know what one is, which sounds about right.
I hope it was someone called Tim.
Probably someone called Tim did it.
Have to check now.
Bound to. You don't need to look that up. It's canon now. Yes. So our heroes are aboard the Seamstress, mighty interstellar liner, international quality buckyball pitch, and the safest way to travel between worlds. There's been little time to enjoy the match, it must be said, because they find they're having to spend most of their time handling the security of a group of travelling cultists known as the Geeka Diaspora. These people are on a pilgrimage to Geeka, their spiritual home, where they're hoping to set up a new life on the remote island of Harrenhal, something that might prove difficult since the island is restricted by the Imperial Navy. For one thing, the Diaspora has taken delivery of a young girl, Leah Hivia, who the travellers have discovered is psionic. Psionics are highly illegal in Imperial space, and so this decision has been taken to ensure her safety with the help of a Zodani agent. There's some suspicion that one or more members of the Diaspora might also be psionic. There's also been a steady undercurrent of hostility towards the Diaspora from people aboard the ship. Twice, this has led to potentially murderous attacks. Both times the travellers intervened without any fatalities. A third attack appears to have been contained away from the Diaspora, and the authorities are keeping the nature of that incident under wraps. Our heroes, working with Elizabeth Sharp of League Security, have worked out that the 3 attacks are more than random. In fact, they might even be seen by the faithful as following specific prophecies in their sacred tradition. Adding to their problems, a journalist called Verima Sefran, principally a sports reporter, is aboard and has taken an interest in what's going on. It may not be too long before she reveals that there has been a third attack on the Diaspora, this one ending in 3 deaths. She is heading to Geeka for the Pelago race, an ocean circumnavigation of the whole planet.
Up the geeks.
Up the geeks. Public appearances by the Diaspora have proven potentially very dangerous, so it's a bit alarming that their leader is determined they will have a gathering on the ship's ski resort in the morning. In response, the travellers have used a little misdirection to discourage anyone from causing trouble, and they've booked a private slope at a time they do not anticipate the Diaspora being anywhere but in their private quarters. Perhaps, if the orchestrated attacks are being carried out by someone outside the Diaspora, they'll fall for this deceit. The travellers have done all they can to prepare, and that was where we resumed the story. So, interesting one for me, this, because you lined up a lot of stuff that proved really, really useful.
Yes. This first thing, I think Ewan and I are in agreement that, and I think we've talked about it off stream between us and at the pub, you handled the the invisibility suit thing incredibly well.
Oh, thank you.
Ewan's very big on it, I know. Yeah. Big fan.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I really wanted it for Stefan. Mostly because I wanted him to be able to walk down busy streets and flip people's hats off their heads and do silly things, you know. But I can 100% see how it would be totally open to abuse. And I think you did a very good job of not allowing us to abuse the fact that we had something that would make us invisible, which realistically could be a game changer in many situations and very difficult for you to deal with in the future.
Yeah.
So I think you handled it very well.
It's become situational with a boon or an easy check as opposed to a cheat code, right? So
yeah.
Which I don't think we would have cheated with
No.
it. You know, I don't think we would have used it as a cheat code, but you can't.
Yeah.
None of us can rely on that after a few, glasses of wine, can we really?
very true.
No, and once you have it, I mean, it does have a few other limitations, of course, because it's an undersuit. You can't wear any armor or clothing or anything like that over it.
Yeah.
So it does make you quite vulnerable. But it does,
which again
give you
seems
the opportunity. It gives you the opportunity to be very stealthy if you want to be, but it will just be a bit of help for stealth. It won't be, as you say, a game changer.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Luke's very right to highlight that. It was very nicely done. Definitely. Exactly. It fitted in well, I think.
Yes. I was trying to think. The other thing he did was you let us have a big, long conversation with Marcus.
Yes.
Where we were basically, it was us audibly and role-playingly put our mental state onto him, I guess, answering some questions. I had a sudden moment like, is he in on it? And if not, as I think Ewan had said to me as well, like, if I think we'd said in a conversation that week was like, if these things, if they don't happen, does that blow everything apart? If it's part of one or the other, is it all set up for them? So it's trying to have that conversation, even if he wasn't behind it, just start him questioning it and thinking about putting roadblocks in place, which is what led to Stefan and Soraya going and booking, which was Ewan's plan, to book a different time, because if something happened at the time we booked, then obviously it was an inside, outside job, and if it happened at the time when only we were there, it's obviously an inside job.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. Yes. Which effectively brings us to episode 35, which is our finale.
Which was a good finale.
I have to say, I absolutely loved this episode. I really did. It was clever, and it was fun, and it was warm, and it was even a bit emotional. I had some great fun role-playing bits of it. I had some great fun watching you guys have a snowball fight for no adequately explored reason. Turned out to be brilliant. It was a fantastic finale to the season. So thank you for that, guys. It was wonderful.
I have to say it's all down to Luke. The entire snowball fight distraction was 100% him and 100% on the spot as far as I was concerned. It was very nicely done.
It's hard to think how it came, because we were going there, so we were really cautious, weren't we, at the start? We were to split. Ewan's plan was to split the group to walk them through, which was a good idea. Right. Because the fewer the groups, the less chance of maybe rolling for people to follow them or something. So that was a good call. So we had that very casual start. Then I feel like we got fortunate because of a last minute thought of mine about getting Johnny to set up the table halfway down the slope,
which was beautiful.
That was a very, very good choice. Yeah.
Just sensed it all. And then we had that whole chunk where just Stefan took control of the whole situation with the Pope and the tasting the food and stuff.
Yeah. Yes, that was very good. You picked up 4 medical kits, which was nice.
Very helpful.
Handy.
That's
4
a
plus
useful
1,
thing
5.
to have to you.
4 plus 1.
4 plus 1.
No, not 5. 4 medical kits plus 1.
It's 5. That's 5
1.
medical
No,
kits.
4 plus 1 medical kits.
That's 5 medical kits.
5 medical
No,
Stop trying to pull
It's
the wool
better
over
than
my
that.
eyes.
It's better than 5. It's 5 plus 1.
Oh,
Yes.
but yes.
And the
did.
conversation, yeah, I'm absolutely with you, Socks. The conversation, I'd enjoyed doing the Marcus conversation. That was fun, but doing Leah chatting as Leah was wonderful. That was such a joyous thing to do.
At that point, talking to Leah as Cara, that was not Cara. That was me talking at that point.
Yeah.
That was me as a father and as a years of teaching young children, things like that. It was everything that came out was me in what I wanted. The over safetyness of wanting to make sure that she was safe, but not wanting to give that too much away and keeping everything. I'm really caring for her in that point. And you, as you were talking about the snow slowly coming down harder and harder, and we're covering it up. We're going to make a snow fort, because that's what you do with the kids, isn't it? You're like, hey kids, it's okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do now. As we do it, let's
You
chat.
do.
And luckily, like Zoe played along with it. Stefan and Agnar totally went into it with the diving on top of the Pope and everything, which just bought us that time. And it was a lovely way, because I think you said afterwards, I don't know if it was off camera, there's not so many necessarily, but numerous ways that we could have either got Leah out or not got Leah out. But some would have been like snatching her against her will, or for the greater good kind of thing, or this, that, and the other, or fighting against them. And it just felt like we took the most innocent possible approach that ended in just a fun wintertime snow fight that everyone got involved in.
Yeah. So I know I've asked you this off stream, but at what point did you work out that the reason for her being with the diaspora was essentially because her parents had decided to try to let the cult deprogram her for her psionics, to sort of effectively sci-fi conversion therapy, if you know what I mean?
Can I quickly flash back and just say that conversation that Luke had with her was perfect Luke as well. It was like a complete contrast to the ridiculousness that I was bringing out at the time, and it felt such a heartfelt. It was wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'm going to be honest. Me personally, I think that was the moment I figured it out was this episode.
Right. Okay.
I don't think I had ideas in my head for the bigger plan of the cult and the assassinations, but I don't think I'd let it slip in my mind a bit, but I hadn't paid too much attention to the purpose, I guess, behind the cult acquiring.
Yeah, what on earth they would be?
Why they wouldn't be inducting such a young member?
Yeah, yes,
if I'm honest.
Yes, it as you can imagine, it's a topic that's come up recently a lot in the news, and they've been having these discussions in the Scottish Parliament about it, about whether or not they can make it illegal in all cases or in some cases or whatever, and they were doing that when I was writing this arc, this chunk of the story, and I thought, you know what, I can put a spin on that. Give you someone to rescue from these evildoers. But yeah, it could have gone very differently, obviously, if you guys were different kinds of players. There are groups of players who would have, waded knee deep through blood and entrails in order to achieve their.
Just like grabbed her mid-speech and whipped the guns out and like shot away as they were charging down the slope, I guess, and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there were endless ways it could have gone, but I did like the fact that it finished with a sweet conversation, a snowball fight, and then just the girl disappearing out of their reach into the snow.
And then Olivia Sharp. That was the Cara role, the Olivia Sharp role. That was the Kelly Boone, the Olivia Sharp doing the knowing nod
Walking
and
up the
smile,
hill.
and knowing that the girl's protection is the most important thing, and that she trusted us more than the cult kind of thing. That was sweet.
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful moment to end it on, because Olivia Sharp felt as though she was on the same page as us. That there was there was a missing child, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Perhaps.
Yeah.
It's very nice. It was a very sweet moment.
And also, the cult don't blame us. Well, they think we're maybe not the best security detail ever.
Not yet.
But
they may think you guys are completely inept.
Yeah, but we're not to blame.
Yeah. And to be fair, what cost is that at doing the right thing?
Yeah. It's not like you're ever going to meet any of them again, or are you?
Exactly.
Ben.
As Fidz just said in the chat, it felt like Olivia Sharp finally wasn't pissed off with us anymore. And
I think that's probably right.
Because I was watching Beverly Hills Cop the other night, first
we
time in a long time,
ourselves.
and it's like at the end of Beverly Hills Cop, that like the police chief that he's sort of butted heads with, sort of lies for him, and they like do a shared a knowing nod and a smile. It's like that old 80s cop drama does the knowing nod. I'm like, yeah, you're all right.
Yeah.
You're all right.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the end of our season. I had an absolutely brilliant time with it, and I'm sure there are more excitement to come in season 3. Ewan, do we have any more of the questions?
We've got loads of questions, Ben.
Yes. Hammer them off.
First off, I had a wonderful time as well. Thank you both very much. It was glorious.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Clear my throat. Question the first. What arc storyline has each of you enjoyed the most, and why?
What in our streaming history?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So since we started streaming.
Ben, if you got one, go for it. If not,
there've been a few. Which one did I enjoy the most? I think my favourite is the ongoing battle with Fess. And my favourite moment in that was when he joined you on that boat on for the sort of culinary cruise.
Oh, I hated that.
Yeah.
On Geeka.
That was peak.
Yeah.
I loved that moment. That was very, very good fun.
Especially he's known as a different name by different people and stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stefan Sarara drunk and eating cheesy balls and want no part of the conversation. What Agnar and Cara
every time he turns up, he seems to come as a surprise to everyone. I think it's brilliant. Yeah.
I think that's. I mean, I love that, and it gets an honourable mention because it puts Luke and I on edge every single time. It comes out. We've spoken about it before, but it puts us.
I don't know what to do when he turns up.
We're not sure what's going on when he turns up. We just turn into completely different characters, completely different people outside of the game. It's not just in the game; it's above the game as well. We play completely differently. But I think my favourite has to be the Sand Crate dealer, and the grey areas, and the moral.
Good.
The moral grey areas that came with that was definitely my favourite, I think, so far.
Good.
But there are so many good moments.
No, that was fun. That one, yes.
Mine's adjacent to that one. I think, thinking back of everything that we've done at that point, as much as I quite liked building up the taking over of Austin leadership, that was quite fun. I think my favourite thing was just going against what anyone else would do, and we built a business. We built a business. We got a mortgage. We built a business.
It's the mortgage episode.
We went around talking to people. Do you want a job? Yeah, I want a job. Hey, guy that owned the bar, do you want a job? Yeah, do you want a job? Yeah, and because that went over like a dozen sessions, we hired people into the thing.
And we tied so many people into that.
That's what's so sweet. It was all with them, even like the nuns. Hey, do you want us to like? We'll bring you food if you're happy to have people and things like this.
Yeah.
That was so sweet. Everything. That was so nice.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh,
and you're right. It's
yeah, exactly the way we roll Fitz. And Emma's room as part of that as well. That little mini thing, because I hate because I was Soraya going in, and the way you told it, I hated it immediately because I had Rose with me, so I felt responsibility as well.
Yeah.
So I hate this place.
That whisper. That was it. You've got to get out of here, or whatever it was. It was harrowing.
Yeah. Which is why I was so quick
at the end of an episode.
I think that's why I was so quick to tell Ewan to punch the guy.
Oh yeah, he punched him all right. Yeah, he stayed punched.
Oh, right. Next up, I'm just going to work down through these because I might save ones a lot. In fact, I think because the last one is my favourite. Ben,
I hate the last one.
Not necessarily Ben, but anyone. Is there actually a spaceship associated with these characters?
Yes, there is.
Will we ever get there, Ben?
So the spaceship that is associated with these characters, I don't know if you've ever heard this term before or heard the name of it before. It's called the Baltic Star.
Ah.
Yeah. And believe it or not, they've spent a bit of time on it, but the weird thing is usually when they're on it, they're either traveling, sort of just doing nothing while they're traveling, and so we just say, right, you arrive in a week and these are the skills you get to modify.
Yeah.
Or they're not traveling, they're somewhere else and they've just left it. so there's very little actual gameplay that's taken place on it. However, there are a few threads coming up which may allow actual gameplay to take place, and more importantly, they will be rejoining her, so they'll be able to fly off to new places. Yes, there she is. The Baltic Star.
Beautiful.
The Baltic Star.
Baltic Star.
Star has said. Ben, can you tell us where the Baltic Star is currently?
Currently, the Baltic Star is moored.
As far as Lucas and I are aware, obviously.
The Baltic Star is moored in a naval, commercial naval station in orbit around Geeka.
Oh, that's wonderful. We're just about to head to Geeka.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, that's convenient, isn't it?
Who'd have thought? Beautiful stuff.
Whose room was yours again, Ewan? We picked rooms. Those lilac rooms are ours. Didn't Stefan pick?
Yeah.
Is that
have
the
you got
left?
it up?
Yeah. Was that the quick
Stefan
getaway?
picked the one that's closest to the exit.
Yeah, by the lifts.
For sure.
Yeah, bottom left is definitely Stefan.
And I think Agnar was closer to the saunas.
Yeah, Agnar's the bottom. So it goes at the bottom. It's Stefan, Sarai's next to him. Agnar's like 6 along from there, and I think Kara was up there with Zoe. I think.
Yeah,
and everyone else filtered into other rooms as needed.
Yeah. Yes. So that's.
I miss it.
That's the tip. Yeah,
I do long for the Baltic Star.
I long for it because it means we can level up.
There. We'll get there eventually. This means we can do more jumps.
That's my level up device.
More week-long jumps. Yeah. Question the next. Do any of the characters have a love interest or children / significant other?
Good question.
Don't know where to start.
None of the NPCs have one at the moment. None of the core NPCs have one at the moment. It doesn't mean it's off the table, but not right now.
Not right now. Thank you very much.
I think Luke and I have spoken. I'm not sure whether we've discussed this with Ben or not, but we've definitely spoken about not feeling the need to necessarily flirt with each other for 30 minutes on stream.
Yeah.
Whilst we're happy to do so.
Yeah, we leave that for the pub.
You know, we kill enough time as it is between significant events that we don't necessarily need that to be a thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, children or love interests or significant others are off the table.
I think that's fair.
I think there's a fair amount of implied.
We're not that sort of stream. We're a kind of a fade to black, if
No.
anything, kind of stream. I know some streams are more into love and I know there's a lot of role play games set up, especially during lockdown. A lot of like romance based in that.
Yeah.
But when we started, we were four drunk guys sat around a table. I'm like, I don't want to start role playing sexiness with Ewan when I'm, you know, it's a bit awkward, I guess. So, and it's not part of the character I want to be. I'll tell you one thing, Soraya, if we're talking sexuality, I can be very clear about one person. Soraya is straight. Soraya's a heterosexual lady. And I think you're right. There's something, when you talk about Soraya and Stefan, that's a very interesting thing. And I think me and Ewan like it by being vague. Because at times they're almost like brother-sister. And at times it's like they would have got on very well at university. And there's obviously a very deep care between the two of them.
Yeah.
And there's sort of a real connection between the two of them. And almost a relationship would be almost selling it short in ways, I think. It's almost more than that. They would probably get together and be very happy together, I think.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the way they'll go about it.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to skip a question. I'm going to skip some questions and lead on to the last one because it feels to tie in quite well. Okay. I'll briefly mention Agnar, and you know he is quite. I feel he's quite open with who he's attracted to. He obviously thinks that Rack is very resplendent, and he's very.
Right, he is.
Impressed by the the Vargas specimen that is Rack. But the last question on the link is: if they were to die, how would each character like to go out?
Oh, I don't like this question.
I personally feel as though there was a very brief moment when Stefan would have gone back in after Soraya when there was a bomb on on the ship.
You said you were at peace with it, weren't you?
And it was something that I, as a player, was perfectly happy to do. I feel as though Stefan would have made that choice given their relationship. And I would have been okay with him dying, I think, at that moment.
Yeah.
That's very good.
But that's how it ties into the previous question anyway. Make of that what you will.
I know if you asked Zoe how she wanted to die, she'd say last.
A good choice, I feel. Generally speaking.
Very good. Cara, there's one time where, well, interesting you say that, Fizz. Cara is traditionally, if you watch back to most of our combat, she's always at the back, and she'll always, if she rolls first, to go first, she will do very little on her first turn because she knows she's delicate. But Ben will know this because, of course, when was the one time that Cara went wading in, Ben? You remember? Cara went straight to the front.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, was
Don't
it?
put him on the spot.
Was it when you went to collect Rose?
No, she went straight to the front to when we first met Rose.
Yeah.
Yeah, she went that, but there was a combat on De La Rue that Cara went straight in.
Oh, that's right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So we were down in the caves, and this when Sammy was getting attacked by the sand crates. And Cara literally went straight for it. So I think there'll be a time and a place where she just the love of her fellow crew. She'd rather
Yeah.
die in that moment. I think because you're right. She would do. There's a lot of coolness about her, but I think she would like forget
Yeah.
all of her thinking and just go straight into save someone else. I think a sacrificial kind of thing. That's how she would go.
Yes, and we know how Soraya wants to go.
After scoring a century in a buckyball match.
Eaten by a really big fish. Really big fish.
Oh, she doesn't want to die like Soraya. That she's still the closest that someone's come to dying.
Yeah, she is.
Dear. How about Agnar? So Agnar decides rescue, protecting Rack.
See, it's really tough. I generally speaking, I think any of our characters would die for somebody that they really cared about, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Agnar's a really tough one because realistically, being a general, he'd be quite happy to lay his life on the line, but I suppose not necessarily before any of the crew, if he had the choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, generally speaking, he would very much like to go out in a heroic manner. I feel he is Daddy Agnar, so of course he's going to look after the crew as much as he can. But
yeah,
push come to shove, I suppose he'd like to go out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah,
more than anything else.
Mm. Yeah, I can understand that.
Something impressive, something for the storybooks, I suppose, or at least in his mind, something for the storybooks.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with 2 questions.
Okay.
Has anyone got any dice to hand?
What size?
Yeah, I have.
D10s?
Any size. Somebody roll a D10 for me.
No, roll a D6 for you.
Well, either way, someone roll a dice and tell me if it's odds or evens.
It's odds.
Oh.
Do any of the characters have any fears or phobias? If so, what?
Big fish.
Big fish.
Really big fish.
Big fish.
Really big.
A couple of the NPCs developed phobias during the course of the campaign. Very adverse reactions of one kind or another to the carvings they found on the world deep in the rift.
Agnar.
Yeah.
Stefan.
And yes, there is actually one of the characters has a phobia which hasn't come up yet. One of the NPCs.
Well, again, no spoilers. We don't want to. We don't want to ruin too much.
But one of them does have a phobia which was built in from the beginning, and if it comes up, then there will be possibly in a moment of crisis, there will also be a sudden need to calm down a panicking NPC.
Interesting.
We need to test it out. We need to put people in very scary situations. Deep water, spiders.
Throw out
the
big phobias.
Yeah, all the biggies.
But yeah, Ragnar and Stefan both have a phobia of the carvings that we came across.
Yeah, they do. Mine don't.
Also, slightly off character, Stefan has a phobia of never living up to the deeds that he's done in his past. I think he, somewhere along in his character creation, he managed to steal a massive spaceship, and some years after that, he came into the realization that perhaps he'd peaked very, very early, and that he was never going to live up to that. And whilst not necessarily a phobia, it is a worry and a fear for him that he will never once again live up to what he's done previously.
It's really deep.
That's
a really inbuilt thing for him as well, isn't it? So really, it runs deep on him.
Yeah.
That's good.
For sure.
I can't think of any of mine. No. Oh, With the carvings, Cara's not had the chance to show her She had that really annoying habit of showing everyone that carvings picture on her
Yeah.
phone. She hasn't done it recently. Hey, what do you think of this picture?
Show my two. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, what's this picture? Ah! I don't know what hers would be. I guess loss of control in a situation, which is probably why she lays things on the table so much.
Yeah.
And she has those moments where she loses the control and gets swept along a bit. Sarai's is probably more base than that because of her years and years and years spent looking after herself. And she's very, she can be trusting of a very small group, but it would be things like betrayal, not being able to help part of her family. Do you know what I mean? It's that more tied in with other people, I think, more than just big fish or spiders or snakes or something like that. Much more conceptual.
Right. Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm scared of
what's
running
the
out of
question
oxygen.
under even then?
Yeah.
Which leads us to, I believe, the last question.
Okay.
Apologies if I have missed one, Kelly. Just give me a shout and we'll fix it.
If we have, let us know. We'll answer the promise.
Precisely. Which character is the richest?
Oh.
I know the answer to this, but I can't say.
Well, I can tell you how much
NPCs tell us.
I can tell you how much my two characters.
I'd hope it was an NPC. I can tell you the same,
Right.
give or take.
So Raya currently has. We got very lucky because we sold the Bass test, so we made a lot of money. We got $1 million between us. Soraya is on 118,800 credits. Kara is on 38,000. Oh, because she gave a load of money to someone. 38,294. She gave all her money away on De La Brue to the poor people. So Kara's poor-ish. What are yours on?
By my records, Agnar is on 146,883,000. But Stefan, who is a lot more guarded about his money, it hasn't really come up so much. But if anyone asks him or if anyone tries to get him to pay for something, he'll try and avoid it as much as possible. Because he kind of feels that
it's Daddy Agnar mode for a reason. It's not Daddy Stefan
mode. It is, but also Stefan kind of feels as though if he has peaked, this needs to be his retirement fund. So I think there was a moment. Was there a moment on the way over on Geeka when he was a little bit protective about his money?
Yeah.
Yes, we were putting money into something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he's a little bit more protective, but he currently has 346,826.
Is that all the money he made from the start of when we joined the Baltic Star as well? He was like raking it in at the start.
Yeah, he's also got. I think he's still got 2 ship shares or a ship share.
Oh, easy for you to say.
Yeah.
This time in the morning.
But he's
saving for a pocket nuke.
He's happy to spend a fair amount of, he's happy to spend money on his friends, but he's not necessarily as forthright as anyone else is with money.
Cool.
We do have company accounts, of course, Baltic Inc., which we created for our trading.
That is very true.
Which Kara set up, which currently has mostly fish. we have 100,000 credits worth of slate fish. So 10 tons of slate fish, 30 tons of shark. That's a lot of money actually, and 50 tons of
shark,
50 tons of mackerel, and 5 kilograms of stannic, which is relatively valuable.
The important thing to remember though is this was purchased on Geeka, so that 30 tons of shark is half a shark.
Yeah, it's a big shark. Sarai gets the Judas every time she looks at it.
1/2 a megalodon.
So we've got some stuff. We got some stuff in our group accounts as well.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's true. Which has been split evenly all the way, hasn't it? So, you know,
Yeah.
there's a reason. I think Luke will correct me if I'm wrong.
I blame me because I thought we were too rich, so I told Ben to come up with some expensive things, which he kind of did. But then we got really lucky with a roll with the Sandcrate cure. That could have wiped us out.
Yeah.
We got very lucky.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but
Well,
you've
and to
got
be
to
fair,
allow for a
you've
bit
got
of
good.
bit of variety, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Luke's got good broker skills, so that has helped along the way.
Yeah, that can make a really big difference, can't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cara's other skill.
Right. Well, I think that probably concludes this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, whether live or on VOD. Next week, same bat time, same bat channel. We'll
Sure.
have the first episode of season 3.
No, we won't.
Oh no, we've got another week off, haven't we? That's
We've got
right.
to rest, Ben.
We've got rest. You
You're
can have a week
absolutely
off,
right.
Ben.
I mean, we can do it if you want.
No, you're quite right. It's Troika, isn't it, on Friday?
Yes.
Troika on Friday.
Yeah.
Orbital Blues on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then
So-
this Saturday, tomorrow, we've got John for Gutterpunk, which is exciting.
Yes.
Is that right?
So yeah, tomorrow is Gutterpunks.
Yeah, got to Punk Orbital Blues.
Yep.
Tony
And then
Rude doing those
Troika
Dark
on
Places.
Friday. Yeah.
Yeah,
January is a good month.
it's a
And
really
if
good
you
month.
can,
And February's
if
going to be
you
cool
can
as well.
make it happen, then come along and watch Luke play The Quarry on Monday,
That is good.
on Monday evening, because not only is it really quite a gripping narrative, but also it's hysterical watching Luke's face while he tries to keep cool while playing it.
They're so stupid. They're annoying me that they're going to... just hide in the house.
It
and lock
also
yourself
works
in.
out the same way in VOD. You know, I'm asleep by that time, so I catch it. And his face is equally as enjoyable, hilarious, whatever you want. Whatever you want to call it.
I closed my eyes and winced at one point last week. It was so embarrassing.
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Oh, no. Thank you,
Yeah,
Socks.
because
You
playing
lost.
video games with your eyes closed is just easier sometimes.
Exactly. Better to not see what's about to kill you. You did well tonight, Fids. You've stayed the course. Good on you.
Yeah. Thank you,
You
Socks.
It's much
Thank
appreciated.
you to anyone else that's still here. We appreciate you a lot.
Yes, absolutely. Crit, if you're still around, thank you very much. I hope you had fun with the catch up, and yes, we will see you very soon.
Yes. Take care, everyone. Sleep well.
Cheers. Good night.